Something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at warrenallen.com.
Wild Card Week with Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and 1080.
There's a lot more under the hood for us.
The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader 1080. The Fan. Happy Football Friday, everybody.
What is happening?
How we doing?
Look at you, buzzed head over there.
Yeah,
I'm a little jealous right now.
Are you?
I am. I need a haircut desperately, and I'm just so lazy that I don't want to go get one.
I've been meaning to shave it for a while. I like to go through different variations with the old hair, and it's basketball season always brings me back because most of my life I had a shaved head.
You got to have a shaved head for basketball.
And my brother-in-law was like, "Are you playing?" And I'm like, well, no. He just started laughing.
You got to be ready to go. You never know. Coach might need to put you in.
But I shaved my head last year. My family didn't remember that, and so I came home yesterday. I got my head shaved. My nephew looks at me, and when I've known him his whole life. Basically, when I started dating my wife, I didn't maybe look it, but I was kind of fat.
Yeah. Little chunky Sprague back in the day.
Yeah, I had like a double chin, a lot of fat in my face. I had a little bit of a little pooch pout.
Down, I'm fat.
My nephew goes, "You look like Fat Brandon on Ozempic."
Ah, the old fat Brandon who then randomly lost weight. We're like, hey, what happened to that 20 pounds you were carrying over there?
Yeah, that's basically what happened. I
at it.
actually laughed pretty hard. I thought that was a funny joke.
That's
by
a nice
him.
little line right there.
Yeah.
Ozempic Sprague.
Ozempic Sprague.
Yeah, I feel like for the average whites out there, if you're playing hoops, you gotta have a buzzed head.
I just kind of believe in it as a basketball player in general.
You don't want that thing flopping around. No. It doesn't look good. What are you gonna wear product the entire game?
No.
You don't want to be that guy that's wearing product.
Yeah.
So then you just got messy hair that's flat. Like it gotta be high and tight. You gotta be buzzed.
I actually, even when I do have hair, I don't really like to do anything with it. I don't like using product.
No, I hate using product.
It's like, here's the gel, and now it's this weird material. Or here's
like
that
wax.
The wax concrete stuff that you have to kind of like finger out of the container.
That's what I use.
Well,
Do you like that?
I fingered it into my hair this morning.
I bet you do. I just don't like it. They'll be like, hey, you have a chunk of it in the back. And I'm like, God damn it. So like I don't like using product. And then if I go out and like it's a date night,
sure.
The minute the wind blows, hair's everywhere, and I look like a disheveled mess. And I just kind of prefer to not deal with hair.
Here's the thing, too, is that when you work the morning shift in radio and you're up early and you're leaving early, I'm never taking the time because in order for my hair to look serviceable without wearing a hat right now, it's going to take me probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not
like
into
it's
it.
all over the place. I'm not waking up earlier than I need to just so my hair looks okay for the YouTube feed. And so I just put a hat on every day. Like, if we were in a different time slot, it would be one thing of like, all right, I don't need to be at work until 11 o'clock.
I didn't do it when we were noon to 3.
Yeah, Meringue has this. He comes in. He's got the whole slick back hair. He's growing it all out. We saw him the other day.
He's got the mullet, kind of like fancy new haircut.
He looks like a Melrose a little bit. Like
He kinda does have
there's a lot of
Melrose
stuff going on. There's a lot of product in there. It's a little long.
That's
but
a great comp of Melrose.
It's,
He's a
he
Melrose.
looks like a hockey player right now. And, hey, to each their own, but he's got time to get his hair. I don't got time to get my hair done. So that's on my list this weekend. I am a little stitious, though. Not superstitious, but a little stitious.
Okay.
And I wasn't gonna cut my hair until Oregon lost. It was one of those things where I got it cut right before the season started.
Might want to cut it before tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, whatever. Who cares? I'm dead inside anyways. Although Penn State losing did save a little bit of my soul, so that was nice to see last night. But that was one of the things I was waiting on. It's like, I'm going to wait now. They keep winning. They haven't lost a game all year, and then they lost last week. And I've just been too lazy the last week to get a haircut.
I would like to also start the show. I need to get something off my chest. And there's something happening in this country right now that I feel like has been building for about 2 to 3 years.
Oh, God.
I can't quite pinpoint when it started or why it started, but you just kind of started noticing it. And I think it's within the last 2 to 3 years.
When the brewing started to happen?
So yesterday I pull into a store, and there's a truck in front of me. And I'm not very close. I'm just right behind him. And we're going into the parking lot, and he just stops.
Oh.
And I stop, and I'm like, okay, maybe somebody's crossing, or maybe there's a car in front of him. I couldn't see.
Yeah, you can't see in front.
And then the reverse lights pop on.
Huh? How far behind him are you?
At this point, I'm probably within 3 to 4 feet.
So you're relatively close.
He kind of stopped unexpectedly.
Yeah,
He
you're
didn't
going
slow
into the
stop.
parking lot. You're like, all
Yeah.
right, why are we stopping? You're a couple feet away.
We're not by the door.
Right.
So his reverse lights hit on, and I'm like, well, somebody coming? What do I need to do here? So I gave it a second. And this has happened a couple times now, and I kind of feel like it needs to stop. I don't know who or when or why, but I feel like a lot of America now has to reverse into parking spots. And I don't know when that happened, but I go to parking lots now all the time, and I'm constantly reverse lights, watching cars have to reverse into parking spots versus just drive into parking spots.
Yeah, just pull into the spot.
And look, I understand why you reverse into a parking spot. I
Easier
get
to
it.
get out, easier to pull out.
But when the parking lot's kind of full or you got cars behind you, either go to the back of the parking lot and do that or park normal. I don't know when this started, but it really feels like lately, within the last year or so, that more people are doing this. And so when you go to a parking lot, look at cars now. You see more cars that had
Backing in.
reversed in. Yes.
It's an interesting theory. Now, I will speak as a backer-inner. I am a backer-inner kind of guy when I go to places.
Okay.
But here's where I will agree with your overall sentiment. Now, we've talked about this before with Costco parking. I'm not the kind of guy that looks for front row parking at Costco.
Right.
I just find me a spot in the back. I don't mind walking. My fat ass needs the exercise anyways. I can walk an extra 100 yards. It's not a big deal. I always back into parking spots just because it's easier to get out, and I like that ease of jumping in my car, turning on, pulling out. However, if I'm pulling into a parking lot and there's somebody within vicinity behind me, I'm not stopping and backing in.
Yes.
I will just gladly, go find another spot. I'll go turn down another way
Common courtesy.
until I know that there's nobody else coming or going. And then, hey, there's 4 spots right here that are wide open. I'm going to back into one of those spots.
That I understand.
It's a habitual thing now at this point. I think probably more than anything. A truck thing a little bit. It's just easier to back into spots, and you got the reverse camera. I like the ease of doing it, but I never put other people at an inconvenience backing into my parking spot.
The funny thing is, this guy backs into the spot. The funny part was that, like, he felt the pressure of me being right behind him.
And this is why I continue to go. I don't like that pressure.
Yeah.
And he didn't park in a spot. He parked in the middle of 2 spots.
Ouch.
What a D.
And so I pass him, and then I pull in. There's actually a better spot near the door, so I just kind of pull my car in. I get out. I get into the store first. I'm talking to somebody at this point, and then I see him come through the door, and we kind of make eye contact as if to, like, yeah, that was me doing the bad park job. And I kind of gave him the eyes of, like, why are you parking like that when you have other people behind you in a busy parking lot?
And you missed the
Good
spot,
for
too.
you.
And you missed the spot.
That's embarrassing.
It's
When you're-
kind of embarrassing.
If you're backing in front of people, you got to hit that spot. You got to hit that spot in one try. Because if you don't, then you got to do the whole
Yes.
like wave thing of like, just go. You just get out of my way. Fine. I'll get back in my spot.
So apparently, because I just, my wife got like a fleet car from her new gig that she got this year, and we had to take like a driver safety course. And in that it said,
wow.
backing up.
Fancy Schultz
Fancy
over
Schultz.
here.
Must
Mrs. Corn
be
Pop getting a fleet
nice.
car.
Wow.
Man.
Corn Pops are living big over
Getting
there,
that
man.
money.
White
Technology
privilege
and
to
stuff.
the max. But anyways, in that it basically said that you don't want to put yourself in a position of backing up as much as possible, because actually the small percentage of time, I can't remember what it is, that we spend backing up, actually a lot of our accidents happen in that time of the small percentage of drivers backing up.
God, people have to be horrible drivers if
No,
you're
they-
backing into things.
They really are. So
Into
what
a
you
parking spot, you can't do that.
So I understand the sentiment to want to avoid like doing it when you leave, but the best way to do it is just do a pull through. And if you can't, you can't. You got to find that
Right.
spot that's opposite open from you, and then just go pull through instead of backing up and then trying to do it around cars. But essentially, people have heard, I think, that it's safer to just pull out of a spot, but yeah, they also
Well,
don't
that's my theory,
understand
yeah.
the etiquette around
No,
other people.
I totally
Idiots.
get the idea of it. I'm not going to act like I haven't backed up into a spot. I definitely have. I usually, if I do, I'm in the back of the parking lot.
Yeah, you go find your space and there's nobody else around.
I'm away from everybody, but I'm generally a guy that likes to be optimistic and park kind of close. And sometimes, you hit and you don't. I get the thinking of it. The problem with it is, one, and look, not everybody has like the fanciest of cars. I certainly don't. But how many cars nowadays have backup cams?
So many of them.
Or at least a sensor like
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
gonna tell you
required
exactly
now.
where you are.
This
Right.
is like 2014. It's been legally required.
Right, you see some Corollas from 2002 out there, and yeah, they don't have that. But
Well,
largely,
actually, that's the guy that's going to hit you too.
That's the guy that's going to back into you. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the technology enough in most of these cars where, if you're still hitting stuff, I feel like that's not I had to back up. I feel like it's kind of a you thing.
You just suck at driving. That's why you're bumping into things,
Yeah,
if we're being
okay.
honest. As you're backing into things, it's just you don't need a camera to back into things. It makes things easier. If you're backing into other cars, you got your own issues.
Yes.
My primary reason for being a back end guy is that I don't like when I'm pulling out of a spot and I have to back out of the spot, and you have to do if there's cars that are parked next to you.
Yeah.
And then you especially in a grocery store parking lot, it's a great example. You have to do the slow back out because you can't fully see
'cause
if
people with
anybody's
carts
coming and people
yeah.
are going 20 miles an hour, and you're all right, go 3 feet. Can you see anybody? I'm you got to kind of stretch around, and you could have your backup camera on or your rear end camera, whatever, but it doesn't show you everything that's coming at full speed. And so when you back in, you just kind of do a little pull out, boom, right there, and then you're out of your spot. So the ease of getting out of the spot is the reason why I back in.
Yeah, totally get it. But stop doing it when the parking lot's busy
Yes.
and people are behind you.
Yeah, that's rule number one of common courtesy, that we have
That's
a lot
kinda
of
what
people
I thought.
that just don't follow social rules. There's a unwritten set of rule books that we all need to follow on a day in and day out basis, and that's somebody that's not following the rules. And they screwed up because you put a little heat on them.
Well,
That was like a full court press from the Spragues, and they couldn't quite handle it. You trapped them in the backcourt.
I kind of feel like there does need to be heat put on people. I said this about the Costco conversation we had. I do like to park kind of closer. I understand the risks there. I could end up spending more time looking for a spot than you getting a spot and walking to the door.
Very fair.
But I've also said, if I park close, I have a rule. When I get out of Costco, you got to get out.
You got to move.
Don't be, nonchalant, slow, packing, organizing. Throw your crap in the back.
Get ready to go.
Get in the car, back up, put your seatbelt on, and move. Not check your phone, adjust the mirrors.
Oh, I got this rotisserie chicken. I'm going to have a wing off of it while I'm sitting here.
Let me get my podcast set up.
My wife and I have come up with a theory, too, that just these people that are doing it, at least by themselves, taking freaking forever, because that is kind of the danger of parking close to the door at Costco.
Yeah.
We don't want to walk that far, but, we've started to just be screw it, let's just walk in, because
Sure.
we don't want to deal with any of these yahoos. But we have come up with a theory that they just don't want to go home. They don't want to go see their significant other.
Sure.
So the man or the woman, regardless, whoever's in that situation alone, taking their time, setting their podcast up slowly, maybe eating
They
a couple
don't
of
wanna
pieces
go
of
home.
that
That's a good
chicken.
theory. I
They
like
don't
that.
want to go see their Sigo.
Yeah, they got 3 kids at home. They're I don't want to go home and deal with that, dude. I'm going to sit in the parking lot as long as I can. I'm going to take the long way home. She's got no clue where I am. She's watching the kids.
Just
What's
spent
the-
4 hours in Costco.
yeah, wandering up and down the aisles.
Spending $480. It's just part of your day. That 35 minutes that I'm on the road.
That peace and quiet, driving place to place. Couple of thoughts here at the Vancouver Ford text line.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I work for an HVAC company. We are required to back into parking spaces by our company.
Okay.
It's a company policy. You got to
Okay.
back in.
Yeah.
So that's
I
there.
will say, on this topic, this is not specific to working vans or trucks. I'm talking about, the regular Jimmy and the Joes that don't appear to be at work at this time of day.
Yeah, you're just out. It's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. We don't need to back into every spot.
This happened with a lady a couple weeks ago with me at Costco. So yesterday it kind of had built up, and I'm like, another one?
Everybody's backing in. Somebody said I back into spaces because I have a truck and it's hard to see over the hood and how close you are to the front of another car. And that's a valid point. As a truck driver, that is a valid thing where you can't. I'm a little guy. I'm a little tiny guy in a truck, and it's hard to see exactly how much space you have in front when you're pulling into something or you're going around one of those flag poles or what, a little corner in the parking lot.
Sure.
It's hard to see all your angles. It's easier to understand your angles when you are backing in.
What's the average height? I think could be a good poll question of somebody coming out of a truck that you expect mentally.
5'9".
I have about dirt height,
5'9". 5'10".
not the
We're going my
smallest
height.
person.
5'11",
Yeah.
5'11 and a half.
5'11 and a half.
6'2", 6'3".
I mean, I think it's a wide range because now I see chicks driving trucks. So really, it could be anybody at this point. It's 2025 now. So.
More ladies driving trucks you're seeing?
that a thing?
I love
yeah,
it.
absolutely. At
Is
least
there a theme out there?
I live in Wilsonville where there's a little bit more space. So, but I'm sure people have bigger vehicles out there. Kind of.
I get some of the
feel, but
farm
yeah.
gals that'll come to my Freddy's once in a while, and they're big
Yeah.
rigs.
Yeah, they got big rigs pulling
The
in.
boots
Dude.
coming out of there.
I feel like most of the big rigs over there, they'll do do a pretty good job of like, I'm going to go in the back.
They're all in,
you know,
yeah,
you go to your backside of the
100%.
parking lot. I'll
Yeah.
walk the extra 20 feet. It's not that big of a deal.
You know why? They have decency.
That's right. I respect the societal rules that we all should follow.
Well, yesterday we had a college football playoff game.
We did.
Got another one today.
Yeah.
And then we've got the NFL wildcard weekend. Oh, God. You're not going to do anything this week.
No, this is going to be a wild weekend.
This is quite
Huh?
literally a wild weekend.
You see that? You like that?
There is a lot to get to, a lot to discuss. The Blazers played a game last night.
They did?
I saw the end of it because it was on NBA TV. I don't know how that worked. I thought it was blacked out, but NBA TV is allowed to do it.
So they can show like highlights at the end of a game?
They quite literally played
like
like the last 2 minutes on NBA TV.
Interesting.
That's how I saw the ending.
Okay.
I had a question about that for Blazer fans that watched it. We'll see if we get to it. We have a lot to get to. It's a loaded show today. A beautiful football Friday. Let's get it going. We'll start with the playoff next on The Fan.
Hallelujah, it's Friday.
This is a wild card week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
Well, we had the college football playoff last night, and with the win by Notre Dame, it's a fun stat. Marcus Freeman has more wins against top 5 teams in 8 days than James Franklin does after 11 seasons at Penn State.
I'd like to thank Touchdown Jesus. Thank you, Touchdown Jesus, for saving me from that nightmare. It didn't look good in the first half, buddy.
It certainly didn't feel good at all.
Did not look good.
No,
if I had to watch Penn State lose the Big Ten title game and then get a cakewalk to a national title, I don't know if I could have even watched the game on January 20th, but thank God for Touchdown Jesus. And I'm pretty sure, based on Riley Leonard's comments after the game, Jesus did guide them to the win.
Absolutely.
When you watch the game-winning field goal, it looked like it was peeling a little
It kind
right.
of peeled right at the start, and you're like, oh, no.
I think it was Jesus. Jesus came in with just a little bit of a nudge to keep it right inside that right upright. Thank you, Touchdown Jesus.
Well, at Notre Dame, is it Jesus or is it his mom?
That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of
I think
both.
it's Mother Mary.
They could have been holding hands doing it at the same time. Let's get this thing together here.
Well, amen. Notre Dame wins and Penn State loses. Big game, James. Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Whoops.
10-0 lead, completely dominated the first half, and then Notre Dame scored 17 unanswered points.
Yeah.
Great game, though. It lived up to the hype. First half was a dud. Notre Dame couldn't do much offensively.
God, that was a boring first half.
Penn State wasn't doing a ton either. They had the one long touchdown drive, and that was it. It was a pretty boring half of football, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect in the second half. And then Notre Dame came out and out of nowhere started dominating the line of scrimmage on offense and just ran it down Penn State's throat. And you're like, where the hell is that where did this come from? Penn State's been controlling the line of scrimmage the entire half, and then Notre Dame was like, run, touchdown. And out of nowhere, they were right back in the game.
I text you guys on a group chat last night. I just don't get it. When defenses are stellar and then they just completely collapse and don't look good at all.
Nope.
And that's kind of what happened with Penn State last night.
They gave up 24 points in the second half, 3 in the first half, which, by the way, came from a backup quarterback.
That was, to me, God, that was a bad first half. But going into the half, my only thought was, how is this game only 10-3?
Yeah.
It felt like it was 17-0. The way that they dominated, I thought, defensively, that Notre Dame offense was doing nothing. They were moving the ball, but they just couldn't. They kept doing the Penn State thing. They could not pick up first downs, and so they give it back. By the way, he deserved to lose that game, James Franklin. You're at the 2, and you kicked a field goal?
Yeah, opening drive of the game or whatever drive.
I think it was their second possession.
Second drive,
Excuse me. I'm either failing at the 2 to 3 yard line or we're getting a touchdown. I'm not kicking a field goal at that spot.
Right.
I thought that was inexcusable. But they lose, and Drew Aller, who announced that he's returning, was just awful. Not that Riley Leonard was much better.
Nope.
Riley Leonard's going to kind of skate here, and I kind of appreciated him saying in the postgame, I probably shouldn't be interviewed right now. These guys help me. He's right. Drew Aller was so bad in this game.
He was horrible last night.
And I think it was summed up the best on the last play of the game. Penn State, 4 seconds. They're not going to score. This game is basically over. We're going to do the lateral thing and hope we get lucky. Clean lateral. And then Drew Aller
chucks it out
30 yards over the guy. Of all the people lateraling, he has by far the worst lateral. And I went, that's the game in a nutshell.
Even Singleton, who was the guy he was trying to lateral it backwards
you saw
to,
his body
had a
language.
reaction like, what are we doing, dude? Like, it was actually a pretty well set up play. I don't know how many blockers they had, and they're not going to score.
No.
But at least it was like, all right, you're kind of getting off to a good start on the lateral play, and then let's just chuck it out of bounds into the cheerleaders.
Are you excited about him returning next year?
Well, I would even say let's holster that a little bit. Now, I don't think he upgraded his draft stock at all last night.
He cannot go to the NFL.
But we just saw this yesterday from Carson Beck. Carson Beck had declared for the NFL draft, and then yesterday he entered the transfer portal.
He's doing both.
He's doing both. And so this is a very unique quarterback class that if you tell me in the next 3 weeks, NFL scouts, GMs, agents get in the ear of Drew Aller and say, dude, look, you can feel however you want to feel about it.
Is he going to become a great NFL quarterback?
That guy is a lock to be a top 10 pick if he leaves. Lock. Guarantee it. Mark it down. Write it in Sharpie. With this quarterback class and the teams that are desperate for quarterbacks in the top 10, he is a lock to be a top 10 pick. Some people might even have him as quarterback number 1. Do I agree with that? No. But I guarantee you that narrative is out there, and if somebody gets a hold of him, he might change course. Because we just saw this from Carson Beck yesterday, who had the opposite, where he was going to the draft, and I think people were like, dude, you threw so many interceptions this year. Maybe better to try your hand one more year in college. Somebody's going to pay you a lot of money. You can financially be rewarded for it. I don't know what grade you have going into the NFL. I think Drew Aller's stock right now is a lot higher than Carson Beck's, despite the game last night.
That's a great take that I don't agree with, but it's a great take. And if the draft comes around the corner, and you're right, look, it's not that quarterbacks can't be middle of the road, we not think much of them in college, and then go on to be great in the NFL. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
He does things sometimes that I'm like, I don't know if he understands. And then how many balls did you count last night? He was he's 12 of 23 for 135. How many passes did you see a guy? He didn't complete one pass to a wide receiver, by the way.
Not a single pass to a wide receiver.
How many times did you watch and you go, dude's open, overthrow 6 yards?
Yeah.
And maybe that's something they can correct at the next level. But he was so bad, and it kind of got, at the end of the game, he throws that pick. What are you doing there?
It was a horrible throw, and it was ironic that it came on the heels of Greg McElroy arguing to be aggressive because Drew Aller doesn't make bad decisions, when it was either literally the drive before or 2 drives before that he lobbed a ball into triple coverage that got interception that should not have been PI because Warren had no chance of catching that ball. I disagreed with it. I understand the letter of the law, but that's one that I'm like, he's not making a play on that. He's falling backwards. It's in triple coverage. Like, don't bail him out there. But to the point, we don't need to have the whole conversation be about Aller and his draft prospects. Would you take Quinn Ewers or Drew Aller?
I'm taking a defensive
Would you take Jalen Milroe or Drew Aller?
I'm taking a cornerback.
Would you take Kyle McCord or Drew Aller?
I am taking an edge rusher.
Dylan Gabriel or Drew Aller?
I'm looking at linebacker or receiver. Yeah.
Like, so you can feel how you want about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I think most people would say those guys
are debatable, but they don't have high grades for most.
They don't have super high grades, but they're probably going to be top 5 picks. Like, that's the rest of your quarterback class right now. Nussmeier returned. Beck's not in there. He will be a top 10 pick if he goes.
I have to ask you this. I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm not connected. How did you watch this as a Duck fan? Because I, not being a Duck fan, felt very weird. It's very simple to say, win your game that you're given, don't get blown out. 100% agree with that. Oregon against Notre Dame or Penn State, I don't think is the same result as Oregon against that Ohio State team. How did you watch this game?
First half was miserable. Second half was a lot of fun. There's something to seeing, like, if Ohio State wins a title, I'm not rooting for it, but there's at least a vindication's not the right word.
I was going to say, are Duck fans rooting for the Buckeyes so they feel better about that loss?
I'm sure there are some that are doing it. To me, I don't feel like I need to root for it because I feel like it's going to happen, and that was one of my other takeaways from last night's game and I mean, that was an incredible football game. That was back and forth, momentum swings. There were a ton of points scored in the second half. Like, thank God for that because the first half was really boring. I felt like I was watching the consolation game. It was like the loser.
Felt like you were watching.
I felt like I was
place.
watching the loser side of the bracket of like, good for Notre Dame, second place finish. That's an awesome year.
You don't think they could beat a Texas or Ohio State?
Well, I don't think Ohio State's going to lose to Texas, so I'll hold this for Monday. And no, I don't. If Ohio State plays Notre Dame and their inability to throw the football, I don't think they have a snowball's chance to win that game.
Yeah, can I add, Riley Leonard has no reason to actually be a starting quarterback in college football. Like the dude that, all right, that pass to Great Love, a 7th grader. Like could
Great
have
house.
made Great House, excuse me.
Great name.
Which is an unbelievable name.
No, it's a perfect
Sounds
football
so
name.
made up. Great house.
Hey, great house out there, wide open, dude.
Yeah, it's like his parents said, no, we know he's going to be a football
Great
player, so we're going to
house.
change it to this. No, but that could have been made by like a 7th grade quarterback. That throw to Great House, it was unbelievably easy. That was the only throw all night that he actually had a little bit of stank on.
That was their real big explosive throw for the night. Other than that, it was like dink and dunk and then some good runs.
7-yard plays, little screens. They called screens at the worst possible time, and then they called them again. It's just shocking to me that they won.
That first half play calling, to your point, Schultz, you do that against Texas, Ohio State, you're not winning.
No.
Because that's not going to be 10-3. And that defense is really good for Notre Dame. I don't want to take anything away from them. They earned this. They got there. The bracket and the way it all shaked, that's a conversation for a different day. That offensive play calling, you cannot do that against Texas, Ohio State. You have to be far more aggressive and smarter. Otherwise, you ain't going into the half down 10-3. You're going into the half down 20-0.
Well, and against that elite defense, too, Penn State ran the ball for 204 yards on them. I mean, they were able to move it on the ground. They just didn't have a good night from Drew Aller, and he was bailed out again by the bad interception. He threw the costly one at the end of the game where it felt like, man, Penn State just got another stop. Drew Aller's got the ball, 47 seconds left, 2 timeouts, and what does he do on the second or third play of the drive? He throws late across his body over the middle of the field, and it sets Notre Dame up into easy field goal position. To the point of the play calling, too, I don't know if they have any other tricks up their sleeve. Like, that's who they are. They don't have a vertical passing game.
This is their identity.
And that's a difficult part with Notre Dame. Their defense is very good. Their offensive line, by the way, now is down 2 starters, and I don't know where those guys are going to be at come January 20th for the national title game. So that'll be a whole nother thing where you're taking on a dominant defensive line again in Ohio State. That we'll see who gets, hopefully they all stay healthy, or, see how that plays out tonight against Texas. But if they're fully healthy against 2 starters being out for Notre Dame's offensive line, that's another massive advantage in that game. And the same thing goes for Texas.
I was going to say,
if they pull it off,
yes.
Texas has a dominant defensive front.
And that's what I was going to add was I'm going to make the biggest mistake. I'm kind of leaning Texas with the points. I think this game's going to be tight. Either one of those situations is going to be a big challenge for Notre Dame. Not that they can't overcome
matchup.
it, but to your point, the defensive line talent on both those teams, man, that's stellar play. We'll carry it over. I got some audio I want to get to. Talk a little bit about James Franklin just being this bad in big games. There's some people saying it's not Franklin. This is all Aller. He's the coach. So we'll talk a little bit about that, get a peekaboo of the playoff game that is tonight. Dirt and Sprague back with more, but for Schulte with a sports update.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by PG Long Floor Covering, carpet, hardwood, or laminate flooring, cleaning, or restoration. Call PG Long, your Northwest flooring experts, pglongllc.com. First on the Fan, Notre Dame beats Penn State on a late field goal in the college football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl, 27-24 the final. Riley Leonard throwing for 235 yards and a tutty. Ran for another. Jeremiah Love added another score on the ground as well. The Fighting Irish advancing to the national championship game, facing the winner of the Cotton Bowl. That's between Ohio State and Texas tonight. The Buckeyes a 6-point favorite. Kickoff set for 4:30 on ESPN. Georgia quarterback Carson Beck announcing he will enter the transfer portal after initially declaring for the NFL draft over a week ago. His recovery from a torn UCL complicating the scouting process was reportedly the motivation behind the move. In the NBA, the Blazers taking the loss to the Mavericks in Dallas in the second of a back-to-back. 117-111 the final. Jaden Hardy leading all scorers with 25. Shaden Sharp had 22 in the losing effort. And on the college hardwood, the 15th-ranked Ducks slipping by Ohio State 73-71. Jackson Shellstad and Nate Biddle combining for 45 points. Elsewhere, the Beavers taking a loss on the road to Santa Clara in OT, 82-81. And the Portland Pilots dropping a road game to the University of San Francisco, 81-72. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play on 1080 The Fan.
It's a busy show today. It's a football Friday. We got wild card weekend. Get to that coming up. Herbert with the opportunity to win his first playoff game this week. And Bo Nix going on the road to Buffalo, NY.
Taking on the Mafia.
That Viking-Ram game is going to go to Glendale because of the fire situation down in Southern California.
Pretty ironic that it's at State Farm Stadium, considering State Farm just canceled a bunch of fire insurance.
See what
in
you
the
did
southern
there.
Part of California.
Yeah.
Seen social media pointing that out. Not happy about it.
We will get to the football. The football is going to football this weekend. Playoff game tonight as well. I don't think we're going to have. We'll spread the line. I don't think we have time to talk about the fact that Wayne Tinkle's 22-92 on the road at Oregon State.
Did they lose last night? Did they win last night? I saw it went to overtime, but that was the last update I saw. Take that as an
Well,
L.
you didn't listen to Jordan Schultz's update, did you?
No, I did not.
They lost by 1 in overtime.
1 in overtime?
Because of an offensive rebound.
I did see my team come back and win at Ohio State, so that nullifies the Rose Bowl. Suck it, Buckeyes. We're a basketball school now.
Payback.
That's right, bitch. And I saw the Huskies scored 13 points in the first half at Michigan State. I did see that.
I just want to say that one more time. 22-92 on the road.
Now, is Santa Clara any good this year?
They were 10-6.
Okay, that's not good.
Not nearly as good as OSU's looked.
No, that's not good.
It was a close game, too, like the whole game. So you're
How's
just
that
like,
net rating, though? How's that
are you
net
doing?
rating? What's that net rating look like?
22-92 on the road.
He just needs to find his guys.
Math says that's
Give him
70
time.
games below 500.
Give him time to get his guys. He
Okay.
just needs his guys.
Isn't that a reason enough to fire any coach?
They have, he's got 2 more years on the deal.
I'm not
I
saying
don't
that
think they're gonna
Tinkle's
do that.
bad, but I'm just saying, like, when you look at that, you're like, ugh.
Not
Okay,
good.
well, let's get back into the football. Guys, stop interrupting with these
Yeah.
Oregon State stats.
What the hell's the
It's
matter with you
unbelievable.
over there?
James Franklin. I want to get to the radio calls of both Penn State. Our buddy Steve Jones had a nice little call. Notre Dame's final call on the field goal. What do you do with James Franklin?
I mean, I don't think you do anything, unfortunately.
No, not fire him.
Yeah.
Just like, how do we? I don't know how to put it into words what I think about James Franklin, but there is something here. You can't 1 in 15. Maybe you
That's
start
a big
1 in
enough
4.
sample size where
Maybe you're 2 and 5. You get off to a shaky start in these top 5 matchups. 1 in 15, and you can scream about star, composite, ranking, all that till the cows come home. They're Penn State. 1 in 15.
The interesting thing, too, is that I feel like for some, they will go in, if Aller returns, that they might come into next year as the favorite in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me.
Right, Oregon's losing a lot. We know that. We know that Ohio State's, they have this
They
big
gotta retool.
senior-laden
Yep.
team. Michigan is maybe on the uptick again, but it might be a freshman quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they entered the year as the favorite to win the Big Ten, which would be a little ironic because they're losing their best player, who might end up going number 1 overall in the draft. And he was dominant last night in Abdul Carter. So happy that he was able to play. I saw our buddy Max Chadwick bring up this point on Pro Football Focus about Aller and their offense next year. You gave the stat earlier in the show. They did not complete a single pass to a wide receiver last night. Semifinal with a chance to go to a national championship, and you didn't have a single catch from a wide receiver in that game. Their entire offense is Singleton, Allen, and Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, we know, is gone. He's going to the NFL.
Number
He's
one
a
tight end
senior.
in this class.
He's out.
Yeah.
He's going to be a top 10, top 12 pick. Now we await the decisions on Singleton and Allen. And our buddy Max Chadwick pointed to, ironically, a guy who was in the news yesterday saying, could we see this level of fall off in Carson Beck at Georgia? Carson Beck last year was good at Georgia. Not elite, but he was good. Similar to what we saw from Drew Aller this year. What did he have to work with last year? Brock Bowers, who just set all these records in the NFL without a quarterback in Vegas.
McConkey.
And Ladd McConkey, who had 1,000 yards as a rookie in L.A. Can you, either of you off the top of your head, name me the number 1 weapon in Georgia's offense? And that's a team, by the way, that won the SEC.
ETN.
I mean,
Their
on the
running back.
outside,
And they
like a
can't
pass
even-
catcher.
It was supposed to be Bell, but he had a ton of drops this year.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say
So this-
not their
They had a
running
guy
game,
with
so I
a
don't know.
really cool, unique name that I'm forgetting right now on the spot that entered the portal but decided to still play in the playoff.
Turbo something.
Turbo something.
That
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
Nitro Turbo. or
Nitro
something.
Turbo. He's got one of the best names in college
An
football.
amazing name.
This is proving the point. Like
Yeah.
one of the reasons that Beck fell off and their offense fell off this year is they had nobody to throw the football to. Now, I don't know what Penn State has waiting in the reserves, but I'd imagine if they had some talented guys, they would have caught a single pass last night in a semifinal game. And so that's the irony of all this is that they might go in next year as the favorite. We're going to do it again, but this is becoming a trend. Like, I push back on some of the early stuff for coaches when they lose one or two big games of, oh, this guy can't win the big game or this guy can't get over the hump. When you're now 1-15 against top 5 teams, Penn State played 3 legitimate, bona fide, extremely talented teams this year. They lost to all 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
They were
Now,
fraudulent.
yes.
They were a good team. I'm not saying they weren't good. I never understood, one, how the bracket shook out, and 2, this idea they just stood in the top 5 basically all year, beating nobody.
Their best win was USC, Illinois.
Yeah, well, the USC game, they were down 20-3. I
Needed
watched
overtime
that game.
to win the game.
I just, look, they hung with Oregon. They had a good offensive show in the Big Ten title game.
That was a whole nother question for me out of the game of like, God, what the hell happened to Oregon's defense late in the season to get shredded by those guys?
I mean, that's a
whole different conversation.
That's a different conversation. They lost within, one score of the Ohio State games. You could point to that. They still lost.
Couldn't score an offensive touchdown.
So, yeah, exactly. Will Howard gave them how many points?
7.
So, I don't know, man. I just didn't look at them. I knew they were good. I'm not shocked that they beat SMU. Like, they were at home in 20 degrees against a team from Dallas. I'm not shocked that they won even their second game. Boise State, great team, good season. But it's Boise. Like, that's where the Stars will make a difference.
Yeah.
They were fraudulent to me. And I Penn State fans in my mentions when I said this on my gambling show. Funny they're not there today. This is what happens when they tend to play these kinds of teams.
Yeah, I also think last night, too, on top of it, that they got the extreme benefit of the whistle, which was ironic for me because Penn State fans out of the Big Ten title game spent a lot of time talking about how Oregon got every favorable call in that game.
That's why they lost.
And that was the whole thing for a week of if we only had, fair officiating, we would have won the game. They were missing blatant holds. I disagreed with the PI call. There were calls all night that benefited Penn State throughout that game, and they were still unable to win. They ran the ball for 200 yards. You tell me they outrushed Penn State yesterday on the show, 204 to 116. For 4.9 yards per carry to 2.8 yards per carry.
And Warren finishes with 6 for 75 at a 12.5 average.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and Singleton has 3 rushing touchdowns. I'm telling you, Penn State's going to win that game. There's no chance Notre Dame can win if they get outrushed by nearly 100 yards by Penn State. That's why it was so alarming. So we'll see what happens with Drew Alder, but I just think this is ultimately who James Franklin is, and until he finds or is able to upgrade the right talent pieces that they need on that roster, this is who they're going to be. He can't beat Ohio State. He can't beat Michigan. Lost to Oregon in their first year in the conference, and they just were in this position because they were handed a cakewalk bracket where they got to play SMU and Boise State. Nobody, I think, all year looked at Penn State as legitimately one of the 4 best teams in the country.
We'll get to a little bit of the Ohio State-Texas game. We'll kind of dabble back and forth in on that one. That one's tonight. I'm excited about it. I know Texas has been a little shaky through this, but they've been off a week. And do we just think Ohio State is going to keep humming? I think a lot of Duck fans do think it, given what we saw in the Rose Bowl. What can Texas do to kind of maybe make this thing more of a game? We'll get to that coming up. We got the NFL wildcard weekend as well. It's a Sprague Line Friday, so get the Sprague Line sponsors in at 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. 645, Dirt and Sprague back with more on The Fan.
Check out the Fan Merch Locker
Here's the situation.
with a new iconic
kicked out, slept on, let down, faith gone. Waited for too long for something to lean on. You feel weak.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, he's going to be here on the 13th at the Moda.
Is he still showing his junk on stage? Is that a thing he's still doing? People are kind of piling on. Is it fair to pile on Justin Timberlake? Is he a good guy, bad guy? How do we feel about him?
Look, I talked to my older brother yesterday, my oldest brother, which I hadn't done in a long time, and we're catching up, and he said a really good point. People are people.
Yeah.
You know, some people are awful.
That is very true.
But some people have awful moments. So
fair.
And in the world of social media, 20 years ago, Justin Timberlake, nobody bat an eye on him because maybe we would have heard about the DUI, maybe we wouldn't have. We definitely wouldn't have heard about him holding hands with like a co-star or whatever.
No, none of that stuff would have happened.
The package photo, not helpful.
Yeah. Not helpful for old JT. Although I don't think he needs a lot of help. He's Justin Timberlake.
Justin
I think he's doing all right in that category. So I'm sure Jessica Biel, she's been happy for a long time. He's doing okay.
Hot take though, not really a great concert last time he was here. So
really,
that was like God.
That was a while ago. My sister-in-law went to that. She said she liked it.
Well, it sucked for one because I think he had originally postponed it because his voice had some major issues and he was sick. So like it was originally a present for my wife's birthday, and then it got rescheduled literally to my birthday. So that was really weird.
It's a double whammy birthday present.
For her, I guess. And then for me, I'm like, yay, I'm doing a Justin Timberlake concert on my birthday. Woo.
Anybody from NSYNC pop out? They going to be on stage tonight too, or is it just JT?
I don't know. I think it's just JT.
Just JT?
He's not going to give
going
them
bye,
a
bye,
percentage of those.
Well, I'm just asking. I don't
Some
know.
people want him to go bye.
They could go bye.
Here is the radio calls of the Jeter field goal, which started out looking like it was going to be an absolute miss and kind of hooked in there, and Notre Dame wins. Here is the Penn State side of that call.
Jeter, kick for the lead. It's up. The kick by Jeter is good, and Notre Dame takes the lead 27-24 with 7 seconds to play.
Good call by Steve Jones, our good friend at Penn State.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do in that moment. You're not sure if the kick's going to go in. Looks like maybe it's going to miss. You're keeping a hope and a prayer alive that we're going to overtime.
There's two approaches here. Are you going overly sad, depressed, play-by-play guy that's like, and it's good, and then the crowd noise just goes for about 10 to 15 seconds? Or are you doing what Steve Jones did? Good! And Penn State's down 3 now with 8 seconds to play.
I mean, knowing me, I would go full on Mike Parker. I would be a Mike Parker if I was a player.
The headset audibly
I would
being
throw the
tossed.
headset, and it's good.
Who's the Vikings announcer?
Paul Allen.
Yeah, I would go full Paul Allen, and it's intercepted. I can't believe we're throwing the effing ball
This
here.
is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Kick a field goal. Yeah, that would be me.
One of the greatest calls of all time.
Here is Notre Dame side of that same kick.
Good snap, good hold, kick on its way, and the kick is good! Yes! Mitch Jeter, with 7 seconds left, gives the Irish a lead.
I always love having...
That's a solid call.
I'm guessing here, the color analyst of the Notre Dame radio call, I always assume it's a former meathead. And so I just love when it is in my mind and I hear them not be able to contain themselves. Yeah!
They just have no filter whatsoever.
Just the most bro reaction ever to great news.
It would have been nice to like a suck it Penn State, one of those added on top of it too. That was a solid call. Look, it was great to have a nice, close, competitive game. We've had a lot of blowouts in the playoffs, my team included. They didn't show up, and that game was a bummer for everybody to watch, I'm sure, especially for Oregon fans. Great to have a close, competitive game. One of my only gripes was I wish we got Joe Tessitore, Jesse Palmer, instead of McDonough
I liked
and
McDonough
McElroy.
last night, actually.
McDonough's fine. I don't know.
I'm hit and miss with him on this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Tessitore for me, but sometimes it's just perfect tone, perfect everything for a game that I'm watching, and I'm like, I love it.
I feel like for the momentum swings and big plays we had late in that game, Joe Tess would have just brought the house down. And McElroy, to me, is a guy that I've never really liked. And when he started ranting with 28 seconds to go how Penn State needs to, or Notre Dame needs to not score
a touchdown.
It's like, what?
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me.
There's
but
20 seconds left in the game. They were on like the 35-yard line. Like, why are we spending our time talking about
who's
this
on
right
the call for tonight's Ohio State?
Tonight's Fowler and Herbstreit.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
a great call.
So that was technically their number 2 team. It's McDonough and McElroy.
Quickly, before we get to the second hour, we'll get into some NFL. John Marks is going to join us in Philly. We'll talk Eagles-Packers. We talked about that yesterday with Jalen Hurts and LaFleur. And also, he's in Pennsylvania. He had basically just came out with a tweet. He was like, Drew Aller sucks. So we'll talk with John Marks for the Daily Ticker. And we can get back more into Ohio State, Texas, because it is tonight. I'm expecting a close game. And I don't know why I'm expecting a close game, but I'm expecting a close game.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, last night was a good argument for the Duck fan that went into the Rose Bowl and even came out of the Rose Bowl with the opinion of that was for the national championship, in my opinion.
I have a hard time seeing Notre Dame beat Ohio State if they win. Texas is a unique team. They damn near lost to Arizona State, so I'm not going to put anything past them. You and I are on different sides of the game tonight. We'll see how it plays out.
You think it's an utter blowout, right?
I don't know if it's 34-0 in the first half the way
like
Oregon
that,
was,
yeah.
but I don't see this being closer than 10 or 14 points. I don't see it being a single-digit one-possession game late. I just don't trust Texas's offense. Maybe their defense throws up a fight for the first half.
Because that's what I'm trusting is the defense.
And that's totally
more
fair.
About that.
I don't trust Texas's ability. We'll get to it more, but I don't trust their ability to run the football, and I don't trust Quinn Ewers right now, and I trust Ohio State more than anything left in the playoff. Look, the way Oregon played against Ohio State, they would have lost to anybody. They played a terrible game. A lot of that did have to do with what Ohio State's doing at this point. They also were just terrible. So it's a hard leg to stand on. But, yeah, there was a nice vindication last night of Penn State not getting to a national. If it would have been a national championship between Penn State and Ohio State, two teams that Oregon beat in the regular season that finished second and fourth in the Big Ten, that would have been the most depressing night of all time on January 20th for Duck fans.
We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the program. We got NFL Wildcard Weekend ahead of us. John Marks at 7:30. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, and YouTube.
For more than 50
Sports station. Now, Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by 808 Hawaiian Restaurant. Mixed plates like Grandma used to make if your grandma were from the Big Island. Woodstock, Burnside, Beaverton, or online at ate-oh-ate.com. First on the Fan, Notre Dame advancing to the college football playoff final in the national championship after beating Penn State on a late field goal in the semis at the Orange Bowl, 27-24 last night. Riley Leonard had a touchdown, through the air and ran for another. Jeremiah Love adding another score on the ground as well. And the Fighting Irish awaiting to see who they are going to be playing. It's going to be the winner of the Cotton Bowl tonight between Ohio State and Texas. The Buckeyes a 6-point favorite. Kickoff at 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. And the association, the Blazers taking the loss to the Mavericks in Dallas in the second of a back-to-back. 117-111 the final. The Blazers heading back home to face the Heat now on Sunday. And in the NFL, the league announcing it will move the Rams wildcard matchup with the Minnesota Vikings scheduled for Monday in L.A. to State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The city is currently dealing with multiple wildfires that have destroyed over 9,000 structures. The NBA actually also postponed last night's matchup between the Lakers and Hornets for a date to be determined. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan. Let's get the playoff party started.
On spots, but I think it would have been worth it.
No challenge. First and goal. Dobbins spins his way into the end zone. We'll see you in the playoffs, LA Chargers and your fans.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Wild Card Week with Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
We got stuff to do. Hey, who got it better than us?
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in the second hour of the program. Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. A football Friday. Dirt and Sprague here on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and, of course, the YouTubes, youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan. A lot in the first hour on the Penn State-Notre Dame game.
It's a great game, man. We're 1-for-1 on the weekend so far. We'll see if the trend continues tonight.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, that was a good game. We can feel how we want to feel about the teams. You can, I certainly have thoughts on conferences and them.
You're right. If you give me the second, if you flip the halves.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
First half sucked. That's okay to say.
Yeah,
the first half was boring.
bad.
There wasn't a lot. Credit to the backup quarterback for getting the field goal at the end of the half. Second, I mean, you had, I think, they scored a lot of points in the fourth quarter
24
alone.
for
31 total
Yeah,
points
31.
in the fourth quarter of that game. Every time it felt like one team was like, oh, damn, Notre Dame's going to run away with this. Then Penn State would score, and then they'd get a stop, and then Notre Dame would get it.
38.
38
second half points. Yeah.
Yes, I meant 31 in the fourth quarter.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah,
It was 17-14 in the fourth quarter. So that was a fun game.
Fun game. We'll see if Ohio State, Texas gives us something similar. I think Texas is going to keep it a little closer. Dirt kind of leans that this could eventually, if not at the start, get out of hand given what Ohio State looked like against Oregon.
It's a very biased opinion. I just watched my team get just railed by them.
I think most of America
they're going to do that to everybody else. At least I hope they do.
I think most of the college football fans that are going to watch agree with you.
Yeah.
The
look-ahead line, by the way, on an Ohio State-Notre Dame title game is 7.5 is what the open was.
And Texas, I think, is 2.5.
2.5. Slight favorite, just under a field goal.
That speaks to what you said. Texas has been weird and kind of Penn State-y. You can't explain why their offense does what it does when it does, but it does.
Yeah.
We'll get to a lot of the wild card stuff. John Marks in Philly will join us coming up for the Daily Ticker. And you can reach the show at the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them at vancouverford.com. I would like to apologize. I did not pull the Spanish call of the field goal. I did hear it, and usually I love to play a good Spanish call. I didn't think it was that great.
Not that good of a call, huh?
It's kind of quick. Not overly how they draw out a little bit of that goal type stuff.
Field goal.
You didn't really have that.
That's kind of a bummer.
Wham, bam, score. Yeah. Notre Dame's leading. Moved on.
Which is tough because usually they have the best calls in big moments like that.
Certainly the most passionate.
When there's 8 seconds to go, they know the game's over and we're going to a national championship.
I dropped the ball. Should have played it nonetheless. Let's start the second hour Not with Trailblazers being robbed talk.
Oh, they were robbed in Dallas last night? Is that what you're telling me? The officials had it out for us last night?
The Zebras hated our team.
Scoot had a nice night. Nice to see him play in crunch time.
Subbed out at 4:53 of the fourth quarter. Never came back.
Nice. Whenever he has a good night, it's nice to really, give him those opportunities to learn and grow as a second-year guy, third overall pick.
Don't you distract me.
That's how you want to develop players. When you trade away the greatest player in the history of a franchise, you take somebody third overall. You don't want to play him in crunch time their first 4 years in the NBA. I think by the time he's 26, he's probably ready to be in the closing lineup in the league. Just not quite there yet. He's ready to play 27 minutes, but not 31 minutes in the last 4 minutes of a game. Because he doesn't learn anything from getting those experiences.
You got to play Ant. So you can lose. And he can come in and
dude, I saw our buddy Eric Gunderson last night tweet, and kudos to him for the thought. We need to send PJ Washington a gift if we end up with Cooper Flagg. Like if we end up getting the number 1 overall pick somehow or gifted something in the lottery.
Yeah, because we should have. They
send some flowers to PJ.
Night.
They had no Kyrie, they had no Luka. Portland, like fans complaining about getting jobbed by the officials. Thank God for the officials too. Let's send them a flower basket as well, bailing our stupid ass out and giving us a loss that we desperately needed.
That'd be a go poll question. Something effective to Blazer fans that watched the game last night. Boo the refs or yay the refs?
Yay. Keep calling fouls on Portland. Don't overturn that call. I'm all for it.
The NFL wildcard weekend, it's here. I'm excited for it. I'm actually pretty jacked. I know Ohio State, Texas is tonight. I think that's going to be a good game. I'm far more excited for the NFL. I always prefer the NFL a little bit to college. It's the best of the best. The expanded wildcard may prove for a decade out that the 7th seed shouldn't exist, but we'll see. There's a lot of belief from people that Denver could go into Buffalo and make that a contest. That Steeler-Raven line is 10.
Yep.
10.
It's a big line.
Those are divisional foes. Lamar for his career, I believe, is 2-4, so that's a lot of points. I don't know if I expect Jaden Daniels to look like a rookie and for those cannons to be fired a ton from a red-hot Buck offense that, is here and then it's not here and then it's here. You got Green Bay at Philly. A.J. Brown's not practicing. They're saying optimistic, but I don't know what that means. Jalen Hurts is going to play. But also, Green Bay's super banged up. I mean, the NFL wildcard weekend, I'm really excited to sit down and watch all of these games on Saturday and Sunday.
Let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this last night. How many, so we have 6 total games this weekend, starting tomorrow morning with Chargers or afternoon, I should say.
That's the Nickelodeon game, by the way.
Oh, is it?
In Houston's the Nickelodeon game. The early. What are you rolling your eyes?
That's your slime game?
No, first I thought it was like a Simpsons cast or something.
No,
the Nickelodeon games are fun. It's those alternate.
They actually show you the
Toy
game
Story.
with graphics on the field, and then they virtually slime
those
the
are
touchdown
fun,
score.
but my head went to the digital recreations. I'm like, really?
That Simpsons.
The Simpsons thing was terrible.
That was bad.
It was.
That was not good.
Slime me all the time. Let's go. Yeah. Nickelodeon brings back memories of being a kid. What? Did you not want to get slimed when you were a kid? Did you not want to go to Universal Studios?
I think it's really sexy.
Get covered in that big old green bucket that you saw everybody on What Would You Do get covered in. Come on. You guys are
I don't know what you're doing over there.
Double Dare.
Yes.
I always wanted to get.
I always
did
did want to get slimed too.
Remember
You're
the
onto
pie
something.
coaster where you do the little coaster and they finish through the pie? I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, it'd be a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Of the 6 games, which, by the way, have the Texans always had the first game on Saturday in every wildcard weekend they've ever played? I feel like that's
it certainly feels like
might
that,
not be
yeah.
true, but it feels like it's true, so I'm just going to run with it. They've always played at 1:30 on Saturday. That's always the slot that they get. Think of Josh Allen going crazy a couple of years ago. Remember that wildcard game? How many one-score games do we get? So you got 6 games this weekend. To your point on the bigger spreads, I'm not there on Denver. Could be wrong on that. Would love to see Bogo do it. But I don't see that being an upset potential.
Bo's legs are going to be, I think, what makes this game close.
Yeah, very well could.
You don't have to make that pass every time. Use your legs as that threat. Bring up that defense. And then later in the game, the fake threat, the little pitch down, boom, yak, big gain.
Where's the trust level in Denver's defense to stop that offense? And similarly to the other side, Josh Allen being able to use his legs and make plays. Now, the Steeler-Raven line I'm with you on. We have spoken plainly about how we feel about the state of the organization and Russell Wilson at this point in the season. It's a divisional game. It's always
10
close.
points is mighty disrespectful.
Zay Flowers is not going to be going. They won the first game without scoring a touchdown. What was the final of that game? 18-10 or whatever it was when they played in Pittsburgh. So they can win ugly. They can play good defense. That line is a little too high for me. But I was thinking about this last night because you're going to get one or two blowouts. There's games that you look at that's a 3-point spread that ends up being a blowout either way. It happens every year in the wild card weekend. Maybe both the Bills and the Ravens blow out their opponents. How many one-score games do we get?
So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna guess the games I could see being blowouts. I could actually, despite what Costos says, I could see the Chargers running away from the Texans. I think this matchup is not a high-scoring affair. But defensively for the Chargers, isn't this a great matchup for them?
You would tend to think so with the key weapons on the Texans offense being done for the year.
Bad offensive line.
Yes.
Take away Joe Mixon and C.J. Stroud on the ground because another sack has happened.
Yeah, and that's all they got.
Yeah, and I know the Chargers offense can sometimes be a little low scoring. It's kind of Lad McConkey and a ground and pound thing. But, Johnston's had some good moments. I know he's got a little bit of the dropsies, but he had a great game last week.
He did.
I could see the Chargers end up doing it. It is so disrespectful to be up 10 as a favorite, but Ravens blowing out the Steelers, I don't know if it would surprise me.
Russ having a bad offensive game. Arthur Smith calling nothing but runs up the middle, and it's 17-0 in the first half.
I kind of give Denver a slight shot here to keep this a little.
It's interesting that people are kind of buying into that Denver hype.
Well, I think it's a combination. I think is it a slow start for the Bills offense? And, when you have a quarterback that can run, you mentioned Josh Allen in Houston a couple years ago before he became kind of Josh Allen, right? Sometimes quarterbacks that run, they just makes life difficult for defenses. And how impressed with the Buffalo defense have you been this year? I think they're a good unit. Are they great? I don't know about that.
It's a fair assessment.
So, this is an opportunity for Sean Payton to put Bo Nix in spots, and Bo Nix certainly needs to make the right decisions. Daniels in Tampa feels like it's going to be a one-score game.
It does have that feeling going in.
I think I'm taking the Vikings. That could be a one-score game.
Rams won the first time when they played in the regular season.
I think half.
You go 3 of the 6?
Half the games.
I think that's a fair assessment. I would probably center on 3-2. I think one of the, whether it be Rams, Vikings, Bucks, Commanders, Eagles, Packers, or Chargers, Texans, those are the shorter spreads of the weekend. 1 or 2 of those are going to be a blowout that you just don't see coming. Remember last year in the wild card weekend, for a lot of folks, I remember it vividly because I gambled the wrong side of it. The Browns were a really trendy pick going into wild card weekend in Houston.
I also took the Browns.
Rookie quarterback, never been in this spot before. Look at Joe Flacco.
Hot.
The Browns' defense is on fire, best defense. And Houston just ripped them to shreds. The game was over at halftime. It was a no contest. So every year in wild card weekend, there's 1 or 2 that you look at that say, hey, 2.5, 3-point spread, what side are you on? That's going to end up being a blowout either way. And then you're going to need, if you get that, one of the bigger spreads to be a close competitive game, whether it's Pittsburgh giving Baltimore a game or Denver giving Buffalo a game.
So Saturday, Dirt mentioned it there, Chargers at Texans, CBS, 1:30 p.m., and then Steelers at Ravens is 5 o'clock, Prime Video.
It's your Prime Video game.
That's our Herb Street Michaels game.
What a weekend for Herb Street. He's got to call the game tonight and then jump on a bird and go to Baltimore and call Ravens Steelers tomorrow.
And then Sunday, bright and early, Bo Nix waking up 10 a.m. in Buffalo on CBS. Packers at Eagles. Many thought this was going to be the Sunday night game. 1:30 on Fox. And 5 o'clock Sunday Night Football, Commanders at Bucks, and then the Monday night game is now going to be in Glendale because of the fires in L.A. Vikings against the Rams. There are some, by the way, this is a side of the NFL playoff, there is some speculation that Tom Brady might walk away.
From broadcasting? I wouldn't be shocked at all.
There's a little bit of buzz.
Not surprised.
I'm pretty sure I had that take when he was hired of like, this is not going to last. There's no way.
I didn't think he was going to do it, was my opinion. I thought he was going to ultimately back out, but he did it, and it's not gone well for him. And now he is like super heavily involved with the Raiders.
They're going to hire Bill Belichick to be their coach and GM, even though they're saying it's not going to happen.
Oh, we got to stop that national media talk. I was bitching before the show started today. It's just like I heard that on the way. Like I heard that on like NFL Talk yesterday, whatever opening show of the morning. And then I heard it on ESPN again today. Like, can we stop leaning on the easy narratives of, oh, Bill Belichick going to jump from UNC to go back to the NFL? Do you think he's not involved and like tied into every single behind the scenes NFL circle? He knew Antonio Pierce was going to get fired weeks ago. He knows that the Bills job might come open if they lose, and he still took the UNC job. Let's stop talking about this, full stop.
It's a very interesting look to have your lead broadcaster basically be pseudo owner guy making decision for an NFL team.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen.
Conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, and that's why
he
he's
can't go to meetings.
handcuffed as a broadcaster, and Greg Olson runs circles around him. And
Which
Fox,
that would bring Olson back to the one chair.
which is
yes.
exactly.
You get your
Burkhart and
dream.
Olson is an incredible broadcasting
best
duo.
broadcast, yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to handle it. I haven't seen any of the reporting on it. There were rumors going into the playoffs that they would do a 3-man booth with Burkhart, Olson, and Tom
the
Brady
Super Bowl?
for the Super Bowl. I don't know if you would want to lead into that. So that's just another thing to keep. I haven't seen any reporting. I'm not sure if Olson will be on the call, but they got the Packers-Eagles game on Sunday.
I got more NFL stuff I want to get to with Wild Card Weekend around the corner. John Marks is going to join us coming up at 7:30 for the Daily Ticker. An hour from 7:30 is Sprague and Line. So get the Sprague and Line sponsors in at 503-864-6326. You can put them on the YouTube chat as well. We'll go through our regular season. The regular season's over. Who won the regular season, and now we go into the playoffs. And I have a thought on that as well, because it's weird how we just kind of throw all the records instead of like how the regular season went.
We do, yeah.
Versus the playoffs. So we'll get to all that. Your sponsors are welcome at the Vancouver Ford text line. More NFL Wildcard Weekend talk next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd.
And here's the thing that is cruel and unfair in sports, but it is a fact. Sam Darnold was one kind of quarterback for 6 years. Super athletic, big arm, but reckless, big, too many mistakes in big spots. That's what he was. And that's where my brain goes, and
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
John Marks will join us from Philadelphia. Huge news. I don't know if you heard. Abdul Carter's going to the NFL.
I, for one, am shocked by that. He's unbelievable, man.
Playing with one arm yesterday.
Unbelievable.
Still just causing havoc.
Just manhand. I mean, you could
Him
go
and Warren
holding
were
on
just
him.
I mean, honestly, Singleton, Allen, Carter, and Allen. Or Warren.
Yeah. Allen's the other running back, too.
Thank
who's
you.
a stud.
Those four players, remarkable. Still can't believe they lost that game last night.
Yes.
We'll get to the playoff. Ohio State, Texas play tonight. We've got a quote from one of the Notre Dame players basically saying, bring it on to this team.
Bring it on, bitch.
Which is, one, be careful what you wish for, but also if the other team wins, wow, that's also going to be a comment to be holding for.
Solid bulletin board material either way going into that one.
NFL wildcard weekend. We'll kind of hold a little bit of the Viking-Rams stuff, I think, for Monday, since it's the rare Monday Night Football playoff game. The only newsy thing I would say today that we could talk about is that that game's being moved to Glendale.
Yes.
And that's really...
It's a bummer.
But it makes sense.
Yes, totally understand it.
Air quality is just too bad.
It's
in that area
awful.
Still.
Yeah. I have no idea what the fan split's going to be for that. I never know how to gauge that.
We had a listener who lives in Arizona text in yesterday, said there's actually a lot of Rams fans in the area. When I said I assumed that more Minnesota fans would be there. So how many Vikings fans had made plans to go to the game in L.A., but now they have to change their travel plans to go to Arizona? I have no clue how that's going to shake out.
Well, and how many Rams fans are actually going to be able to travel to Arizona in the
Yeah,
first
even get
place
out of
anyway?
L.A.
Like, they're so, dealing. They canceled a Lakers or postponed a Lakers game last night.
They got bigger fish to fry
Yeah,
now. They're going to an NFL game.
Where's the shock meter if Houston beats the Chargers for you?
Scale of 1 out of 10, I would say the shock meter...
Who's the better coach?
Jim Harbaugh.
Oh,
who's the better quarterback?
Justin Herbert.
Herb.
I think I'd go 7.5 out of 10, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. And that's probably too disrespectful to the Texans because they are a 10-win team and they won their division. And I get it, but NFL playoffs give us surprises every single year. This is one where you got to win this if you're the Chargers. You fought your ass off at the end of the regular season to get in this position. So you didn't have to go to Buffalo. So you didn't have to go to Baltimore. This was the game that you wanted. You won those games at the end of the regular season. You didn't sit guys. Other games around the league broke your way. Pittsburgh losing in the final week of the regular season. Things broke your way. You took advantage of it so you could get this matchup to win this playoff game because there's zero question when you look at the AFC playoff picture, particularly the teams that are hosting playoff games, there is a clear gap between Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, space, the Houston Texans who won a terrible division.
And can we add that, it's a terrible division. He doesn't really have any receivers to throw to anymore. I'm pretty sure, even though they're a 10-win team, they're giving up like the third or fourth most sacks in the league. So C.J. Stroud
His offensive line's been bad.
Yeah,
Not been
time
good
to
this
throw
year.
the damn ball. They can't establish a run game, yet somehow D'Amico Ryan eked out 10 wins. They're going to make it far in the playoffs. You kidding me?
He's a little bit of a cautionary tale, too. You could use any young quarterback at any class or year, but he's a little bit of a cautionary tale. Stroud is still somebody that I highly regard. I would love to have a C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
I think a lot of this is offensive line woes.
Yeah.
And injury, wide receiver injuries.
Yes, Diggs gets out. Collins was gone for a while. Dell breaks his leg. They have suffered some massive losses. But he is a little bit of the cautionary tale of be careful just assuming everything's going to roll over and be even better in year two. And in a year where we've had great rookie quarterback play, and we got a couple of them in the playoffs, I think naturally every fan with a rookie quarterback that gets to the postseason, you just kind of count next year, we're going to be back here again, and we're going to be good. And Houston could win this game.
Very well could.
And you're back in the division round again. C.J. Stroud overcame all of these injuries and a bad offensive line and did it. And I would be with you, too, on that meter, that 7.5 out of 10. I fully expect the Chargers to win this game because I think they're the better team. But it is a cautionary tale of be careful just assuming it's all going to be amazing again next year. This league just, it chews guys up and it spits them out. And sometimes teams get chewed up and spit out. And Houston won their division. They're going to host a playoff game because they're not the Colts. They're not the Jags.
They're better than the crap that's at the bottom of the barrel of the AFC South.
They just weren't as crappy. And so I'll be curious to see how that game goes. But this is all of the offseason podcast preview stuff was Stroud. And Stroud was fine enough to get them to the postseason, win a division. That's certainly something to be happy about. But it doesn't feel as good in year 2 as it did in year 1.
Well, and to the point on Houston, they were 5-1 against the AFC South this year. They randomly lost that game, remember, to Tennessee and whatever week it
so
was.
half their wins came
half
against
their
their
wins.
division.
They were 5-1 against the AFC South. They were 5-6 against everybody else. They were below 500 in games, not against the AFC South.
Who was their lone loss to in the division?
It was Tennessee. Tennessee randomly got them.
Oh, they blew the brakes off them, didn't they, at the end of the year?
No, Tennessee or
Houston
killed them last weekend. This was the game at home. They lost 32-27.
But they came out the gate, I think, in that game. Tennessee did and went up in that one, right?
It was they were up 20-17 at the half,
okay,
and they ended up winning the game 32-27.
I remember that game now.
I remember it being a shocker, and a lot of people. It cost me because I think I threw like Texans money line in a lot of different parlays, and you're like, oh, there's no way the Texans are going to lose at home to Tennessee, and they did. So that was their only divisional loss. I also just think like. I always argue that wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat, and C.J. Stroud is a good example of it this year. I'm still a big believer in C.J. Stroud. The narrative stuff that I pushed back against in the offseason was immediately putting him into this conversation where he's a top 5 guy in the league after he had a good rookie season. To me, that was laughable. The primary problems that Houston was facing this year, one, their offensive line is terrible. Their wide receivers got banged up. And last year, they got to play a last-play schedule. This year, they got to play a first-play schedule. It's much more challenging to go through when you do that. And so those were the reasons I wasn't super high on Houston, but I'm not selling the farm on C.J. Stroud quite yet. There is something with Herbert, though, at this point in his career in this matchup. Like, you gotta win this game, and you got to play well. And I still think Herbert is a piece or two away from being a true difference maker in terms of winning an AFC title or winning a Super Bowl. I don't know if Ladd McConkey being your number 1 guy is enough to go on the road and beat Kansas City at Arrowhead. I defend him, and I think it's valid. This is one where it's like, you got to win this game. You got to play well, and you got to win this game. Now, it's one thing if your defense randomly comes out and gives up 50, and you score 42 and you play great, then we can point fingers elsewhere. But if they lose and they don't play well, he's going to have a hard time squaring those questions. I don't think that'll happen. A lot of pressure on him this weekend.
Baltimore and Buffalo are 2 teams that if they lose, it's going to be shocking to come in Monday and talk about that. If you put them to the side, Tampa and Minnesota is a more of a Monday conversation, but those are 2 teams I was thinking about last night. I was reading some stuff on a lot of these games. And I just kept coming back to, like, what does Tampa do if they lose to Jaden Daniels and the Commies? Do they just run everything back?
Probably.
And just say, like, we're in a bad division, we can do this again, and hopefully we host a playoff game and call it good?
I mean, similar to the AFC South, who's jumping up in the NFC South next year? You buying
Carolina or Atlanta could be there.
They could.
They've got young quarterbacks, and some
could.
are high on Penix and what he did, and some obviously loved what Bryce Young did at the end of his season. So I think their division's interesting next year. Minnesota losing after winning 14 games.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell, I don't believe has a playoff win, right? I think he's only been one, so they lost to the Giants in the first round, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh.
Have they been other times? Am I missing another time?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I actually don't know that number top of my head.
Because he's been a coach for 4 years, I want to say, right? Head coach there? Hold on.
He wasn't the coach when Kirkers won the Saints, was he?
No, that was Zimmer, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Y'all think Sam Darnold's going to step on that trap door back into good old...
This is his 3rd year there, so they went 13-4 his first year. They lost to Daniel Jones at home. They did not make the playoffs, obviously, last year. Kirkers went down. They had Dobbs, and then this year they're 14-3.
Well, but, like, you have to be asking out loud. 14 games. We all watched you play great football, and then you lose in the wild card?
Yeah, I mean, he was bailed out against Jacksonville. Their defense definitely saved them there. So he's had a couple of bad moments this season, right? Then obviously against Detroit last week, you wonder, all right. So, but you've seen 12 times where he shows up. I think there's people questioning if he's going to roll back to the old Sam Darnold or not.
Well, he's got a good reputation, though. Like, he's going to win Coach of the Year, probably. I believe he's already won it.
Of course.
He has one of those. I talked about this with LaFleur. He's got one of those. He's the darling, genius, offensive-minded guy. That's the reputation. You know, losing in your first wild card weekend after going 14-3?
When you're toting a home playoff loss to Danny Dimes on your bingo card?
Yeah.
That's not good.
They're less than a field goal favorite, too. Those are 2 teams that I keep thinking about, like, do they do any major things, or do they just say, yeah, it's the NFL playoffs, this happens?
I think the Vikings thing is a elephant in the room quarterback question of how do you handle it? What do you do in the offseason? Where's J.J. McCarthy at? Do you believe in Sam Darnold? Like, that is a lingering thing that they're going to have to answer this offseason. This Minnesota team, though, I will say does feel different than the first time that they made the playoffs. And that loss at home where Danny Dimes torched that defense and ended up getting a $200 million contract because of that. That team, if you remember, won 9 one-score games throughout the court. Like they won they were in a ton of one-score games.
Yeah.
They won them all. Every ball bounced their way. Every break bounced their way. This team has dominated teams throughout the course of the year. Now, I'm not saying they haven't won any one-score games. Seattle late in the season, Green Bay came back. Schultz pointed to the Jags game earlier this year. They've had one-score wins, but they've been a dominant force and like a plus 100-point differential on the year. So this is not a team that eked in with one-score games, and it's one that you, I think, expect to go out and perform well and win that playoff game as a 14-win team.
We'll roll on with some more Wild Card Weekend talk. We talked a little bit yesterday about Philadelphia and Green Bay. John Marks in Philly is going to join us. His thoughts on the Eagles hosting a banged-up Packer team. Are they going to have A.J. Brown? Jalen Hurts coming back after a couple weeks with the concussion. So we'll get his thoughts. Is Sirianni in trouble? Also, he said Penn State and Drew Aller suck. So we'll talk with John Marks for the Daily Ticker. Sprague the Line an hour from now. Back with more on The Fan.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, Notre Dame beating Penn State on a late field goal in the college football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl last night. 27-24 the final. Riley Leonard throwing for 235 yards and a tutty. He ran for another, while Jeremiah Love added another score on the ground. The Fighting Irish advancing to the Natty to face the winner of the Cotton Bowl. That's tonight between Ohio State and Texas. The Buckeyes a 6-point favorite. Kickoff set for 4:30 on ESPN. On the hardwood, the Blazers taking the loss to the Mavericks in Dallas for the second of a back-to-back. 117-111 the final. Blazers now heading back home to face the Heat on Sunday. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The inside story on the Blazers, Ducks, and Beavers. In this wide world of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague hit the big stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing, your local coastal brewery. Independently brewing since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
All right, Daily Ticker time on a Football Friday, brought to you as always by Pelican Brewing, proudly serving hoppy beverages for everyone. Grab your favorite Pelican brew or try Pelican's hop-infused sparkle hops featuring fun fruit flavors and zero alcohol. Sparkle into the new year with Pelican Brewing's non-alcoholic sparkle hops. Let's go to Philadelphia, where I think of the game of the weekend and the wild card weekend is, just in terms of storylines, I don't know if it'll end up being the best game, but just eyeballs, attention, matchup, Packers and Eagles. John Marks, our good friend from Philly. Go give him a follow on Twitter, at John Marks Media, the host of Philly on Philly Sports. John, good morning to you. What's the reaction out there if the Eagles lose on Sunday?
Nick Sirianni's fired, and I don't. Man, it is. It would be tough. It would be very difficult to swallow. Nick Sirianni, people will point out, have made the playoffs in all 4 of his seasons. If he was to lose on Sunday, he would have exited in the first round of 3 of those 4 seasons. So I don't think he would be fired, but man, the heat and the noise would be loud if they don't win Sunday.
Well, if they don't win, totally get it. We talked about Jalen Hurts a little bit yesterday, John, and I'm curious your thoughts. He obviously had 14 rushing touchdowns, so that needs to be thrown in as part of the equation here. But 18 touchdowns, not overly impressive with the yardage. And I understand he didn't play the last couple, but just your general thoughts that, like, let's say they lose a close game. He's got 1 pick, no touchdowns, throws for like $145. Like, I get why Sirianni would be run out, but I don't know if that's Nick Sirianni's fault. Just where Jalen Hurts is for people if he doesn't have a great game and they lose.
Yeah, I think it's likewise with Sirianni. The I'll say minority of people that don't look at Jalen Hurts as a great passer, and I think it's hard to argue, right? Like, he looked in 2022, they went to the Super Bowl. He made real strides as a quarterback. He could throw from the pocket. He was a dual threat. And he's regressed as a passer since then. He has shown when needed to throw that he can. The Eagles' offense this year ran through Saquon Barkley. So in the playoffs, when they say, okay, you're not going to win with Saquon Barkley, what does Jalen Hurts do? If he looks bad as a passer and they lose, that's a problem. It's not going to cost him his job, but that's a problem. I've used this term a couple times this year, and I believe it. I think Jalen Hurts is a better football player than quarterback. And quarterback meaning also like a throwing quarterback, because if I need a drive in the fourth quarter, you need a touchdown, you need points to win. Jalen Hurts will get them for you. He's got the intangibles that every quarterback would want. Is he a good enough passer? Well, that's the question right now.
Interesting. John Marks is our guest, host of Philly on Philly Sports, at John Marks Media on Twitter. Go give him a follow. I have an interest in just kind of looking at this game. Both quarterbacks being banged up late in the year. Obviously, Hurts with a concussion. He's back. Love banged up. He said, hey, I'm going to play. The line's 4.5. Like, I'm leaning Green Bay just because 4.5 seems like a lot of points. Where are you at? And when the matchup was determined, hey, playing the Packers in the opening weekend of the playoffs, how do you feel about the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it opened at 3. And it jumped up to like 5.5 real quick, and it's come back down and it's settled at 4.5. The Eagles are considered widely by most as the maybe the second best team in the NFL. So to be at home, Vegas, and a little bit of a lack of playing out, I think they're going to come out a little bit slow. The Eagles traditionally have been slow starters on offense. So keep in mind it's a home playoff. Be restless, a lot more restless. Their offensive coordinator, do they start coaching differently? Do they get tight? Do they go for it where they might punt? Do they kick a field goal where they, you know what I mean? So it's like, does it change the way they coach and they call plays? So a little bit of the concern is if they start off slow. But, I mean, overall, I look at this, and the Eagles are the better team. They have more talent. Green Bay's a good team, but I just think the Eagles are overall the better team and the better talented team.
A.J. Brown didn't practice, but I think they labeled it optimistic that he is going to play. Do you think he's going to be out there for them? And what's the matchup for John Marks that he really is going to keep an eye on here? Green Bay also going to be shorthanded. No Christian Watson, obviously. Yeah. What's the matchup for you that's going to be maybe the deciding factor in this?
Yeah, I wouldn't look too much at the A.J. Brown. He's had a knee thing going on the last couple of weeks, and it's just, like a guy like A.J. Brown, you just want him as fresh as possible for the game. So I think there's something there with the injury, but I don't think it's going to affect him on Sunday. I mean, honestly, the biggest matchup for me is the Packers' defense against Jalen Hurts and how they defend him, right? Because the offense during the regular season has went through Saquon Barkley. So what do? Do the Packers say, all right, you know what, Jalen, we're not going to let you beat us by running the ball with Saquon Barkley. We're going to make you throw the ball. Now, are they going to put pressure on him and blitz him, or are they going to kind of have like a mush rush where they say, hey, we're not going to pressure you necessarily with 5 or 6 guys at a time, but we're not going to allow you to escape and run? Because Jalen Hurts' biggest weapon sometimes is his legs and what he's able to do getting out of the pocket, moving the chains, setting up third and short where they do the tush push where the Eagles are unstoppable in third and fourth down. So that's how I would defend him. I would say, hey, like, you're going to have to beat us over the top. We're not going to give you these intermediate routes. So, like, Jalen, beat us with your arm, and I think that's what the Packers are going to do.
Interesting. Talking about coaches, too, that have storylines. Last night we saw another big-time loss for James Franklin, who and the numbers are all out. It was like 1-15 against top 5 teams. I don't even know what it is against top 10 teams, but it ain't good either. And it was one where you watch first half, you're like, Penn State should be up by way more than they are right now. They let Notre Dame hang around. The Irish win. What's been the reaction out there to Franklin losing another top 5 game?
Yeah, so you have Penn State fans, and then you kind of have everybody else that aren't Penn State fans, and I fall into the latter of not being a Penn State fan. I'll say this: I mean, James Franklin. I mean, outside, I don't know. Like, that wasn't a James Franklin, you're a dumbass game last night, which we've seen many times. Yeah. He's the king of punching down, and he does not do well punching up, like you mentioned. If that quarterback is even a B quarterback, they win the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first interception that got called back, they got totally bailed out on that. That was a terrible pass. And then he just freaked out. I guess his first read wasn't there. Warren wasn't there. He got knocked off the route, and then he just freaked out and he threw the ball. So they were in position to kick a field goal. If they could have gotten another 30, 35 yards right there, they could have kicked the field goal. I feel cheated because I didn't get to see overtime, and I was hoping to see what the game looked like in overtime. But another loss for James Franklin. I mean, whether or not it's his fault or not, the bottom line is he can't win the big game.
I just love that sports unites us. You're in a couch in Philadelphia. I'm in a couch in Portland, Oregon. We're both like, that's not pass interference,
what are we doing? You lobbed it into
is.
Triple coverage. What are we calling that for?
John, what is the playoff game? We were talking about how many one-score games. Sometimes Wild Card Weekend can deliver some duds here. There's a lot of people that think these games could all be really good, and I'm sure we're going to have some duds, but what are the couple games for you that you look at and you're just super jacked because you think it's going to be a really good game?
Yeah, I was actually talking about it earlier. There's not the obvious. Remember a couple of those years you had some 7-9 teams in there. Mm-hmm. I remember T.J. Yates and the Texans were playing in a wild card game, and it was so not competitive. You don't see that, at least on paper. I think that the one game that I'm most curious about is the Bills and the Broncos, because I want to see Bo Nix and I want to see what this Broncos team looks like on the road. But the Commanders, so the Steelers and the Ravens, 9.5 points is a lot of points, especially with a divisional playoff game, and how Steelers have done defensively against Lamar Jackson. That's intriguing. The Commanders against the Bucs, that's my upset special of the weekend. It's a 3-point line, but the Bucs the last couple of weeks just haven't looked good. They're at home. It's only 3 points, and I think this is where you see Jaden Daniels kind of running around, making plays, extending plays. They beat the Eagles late in the season, and they did it literally on the legs of Daniels, whether he's running for first downs or whether he's setting up the throw, because he can throw. He's an unbelievable talent as a rookie. So that's the one game that I'm probably most excited to watch, is the Commanders and the Bucs.
Yeah, great stuff. Don't know what to make of the Bucs late in the season. They have times where they look like a juggernaut and times where they probably should lose to the Saints at home and Spencer Rattler. None of it makes any sense. That's the beauty of the NFL. John Marks, at John Marks Media on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Host of Philly on Philly Sports. Enjoy all the football this weekend. I'm sure your city will handle it well if the Eagles don't win on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
But the meltdown is always enjoyable from our side of the country. Thanks as always, John. Let's do this again soon.
You got it. Anytime. Thanks.
There you go. John Marks from Philadelphia, where he likes him. And I see his point. Like, if I were in Philly, I'd probably be arguing the same thing about.
I do too.
Like, dude, we've been a wagon all year. We're the second best team.
This is a good
like,
matchup for them.
Might be a good matchup. You got quarterbacks that are banged up. Love's banged up coming into the game. They got Saquon Barkley's fresh, didn't play last week. Like, a lot of the things kind of align for the Eagles to win that game. Will they, though? I got some more lingering thoughts on Wild Card Weekend I want to get to, including some of the other matchups we haven't really talked about yet. The Daily Ticker is always brought to you by Pelican Brewing, proudly serving hoppy beverages for everyone. Grab your favorite Pelican brew or try Pelican's hop-infused sparkle hops featuring fun fruit flavors and zero alcohol. Sparkle into the new year with Pelican Brewing's non-alcoholic sparkle hops. More Wild Card Weekend talk next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainshomservices.com.
Dribbles to the right, now down the right side, cut off by Shellstad. Circles around to the free throw line, now down the left side, blocked by Biddle on an attempt. Out of bounds off the Buckeyes. Nate Biddle with another block in this one.
There's Joey Mack on the call. Oregon Ducks basketball. They come back in the second half. They were down at the half at Ohio State. Payback for the football game.
That's all right. We're a basketball school.
Another quad one win. Only Auburn has more quad one wins on the season in college hoops. Dana Altman, 14-2.
Husky fans still making fun of Oregon basketball after getting blown out to Illinois. Now that they're 14-2 on the season, and the Huskies scored 13 points in the first half of Michigan State. Is that still a thing?
Huskies lost by 34 to the Spartans yesterday. Who's singing up? The Huskies and Ohio State. Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful. Let the pros tackle the projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Home Services. That's threemountainshomservices.com.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan. It's crunch time. Let's go! Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. A little bit of news out of the NFL we'll get to in a moment. Also, we're Eagle haters. Text the Vancouver Ford text line. You guys cry so much about the Eagles when your teams aren't even in the playoffs. Every year, same crap from you two.
I literally am picking the Eagles.
Quit hating on the Eagles so much, man.
I'm going to Sprague the line on the Eagles.
God.
What are we talking about?
What the hell is the matter with you? You're
We just had a guy in Philadelphia tell you they lose or firing their head coach.
Such a hater over there,
And their
dude.
quarterback hasn't been as good as a passer the last 2 seasons.
I don't know if their quarterback has that.
Do you have fire in your gut?
I don't know if he's got that fire in his gut. I don't know. Do you text in after they got boat raced by the Buccaneers in the wild card weekend last year when I was hating on your team?
I mean, I guess.
You're going to text in Monday if they lose to the Packers? Am I
Corn
gonna get a
Pop, does it
response?
sound like we hate the Eagles?
What do you think,
No.
Corn Pop? What's your takeaway?
No, Corn Pop says no. You guys are loving on the Eagles this time
I'd say
around.
Dirt's more of a hater than I am.
I hate the Eagles. I hate the Eagles
I think
a
it's a good
little bit,
matchup
yeah.
for them. The Packers are banged to hell.
I think
I
it's
just don't like their head coach. I actually like the city of Philadelphia. It's a beautiful town. I'm going there this summer.
Never been.
I don't like their head coach. He's arrogant, and it bothers me. And I don't think their quarterback's that good.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think you guys, and go get it on the podcast wherever you get them, comparing Caleb Williams' stats to Jalen Hurts' on yesterday's show should open a lot of fans' eyes, but people, like you guys said, they like to pick their narratives and form their narratives for some reason, off the field, whatever it may be.
Fun fact, I've never been to any of the home venues that are hosting playoff games.
Really?
Yeah.
Never been to Arizona? You've never been to, like, Scottsdale, Phoenix?
Never been to Glendale.
Never been to Glendale?
Nope.
Let's see what else. Baltimore? Never been to Baltimore?
Nope.
Never been to Houston?
Nope.
Buffalo? I've never been to
Nope.
Buffalo. Philly? Tampa?
Nope.
Okay. Huh.
How about that?
You got to go on some trips, man. Let's book you some trips next year.
Well, I mean, are those? I mean, look, the East Coast is
Philly's
something I
a cool
definitely wanna
town.
do.
Philly is a really
Baltimore,
cool town.
DC would be something you kind of do all in one big trip.
Yes.
But yeah,
They're all close together. You could get DC, check it off the box, see the Capitol, go to Philly, check out New York. You got to do that trip at some point.
I would love to go to a Buffalo Bill game during the snow.
Like, you want a dome. You can't do that. You don't give me, I want to
Why?
go to a snow game, Tate.
I'm not a Bills
Mr.
fan.
Dome Man over here. You
I'm
don't
not
get
a
to
Bills
enjoy
fan.
the elements.
If I was a Bills fan, I would be angry and I'd want a dome. But I'm not a Bills fan, so.
This just came across the wire that after several days of discussions about the 2024 season and the future, Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy remain open to moving forward together, and the sides are expected to open talks today on a new contract to keep him in Dallas.
Very odd to block Chicago from talking to him.
All of this is very weird. It
He's
doesn't
gonna
make
bring him
any
back.
sense.
They kind of told you this during the season, and people talked about it, but they just moved on as if they weren't telling the truth. Stephen Jones did say that they were absolutely open to keeping him.
His contract is up on Tuesday, so they got to
we'll
figure
see.
this out. I think by the time if they don't re-sign him by Tuesday, he's just open market. He can go. They don't need permission. He can go interview wherever the hell he wants. So if you're Mike McCarthy, do you want to stay in Dallas?
I thought he said he'd prefer that over Chicago at least, but I don't really
See, I
know.
don't
Would you
think he's
rather
gonna
be
get
the head
the
coach
Bears
of the
gig.
Cowboys or the Bears? If
I
you
think
offer
this is the
both?
only job he'll get a head coach.
This is the only one that he's got.
I really do believe that. So I think, he's going to stay. Look, McCarthy, we make fun of McCarthy from time to time. Their biggest problem is Jerry Jones. It's not Mike McCarthy.
Yep.
Mike McCarthy obviously did not do well in the playoffs when they made it. What were they, 12-5 in 3 straight years?
I mean, he's won games. Every year that Dak has been healthy, they've won double-digit games.
Yeah, they can win games.
To be
Now,
fair to
do
him.
I think he's winning another Super Bowl? No, I wouldn't say that at all. The weird part would be if they don't keep him, who are they going after?
I don't know. I think the thought there was always, does he have somebody, Jerry that is, does he have somebody that he's waiting on to see if he becomes available? And he's just like drawing this out, which I don't think he does have some ace up his sleeve.
You know what you're doing, right?
What am I doing?
You're doing what we make fun of the national shows for doing. It's NFL Wild Card Weekend.
And I'm talking about the
what
Dallas
are the
Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys going to do this offseason?
Well, look, this one, I do want to be fair because I'm not the biggest Mike McCarthy guy, and I would not bring him back if I were the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. But to be fair to him, when you're paying Dak Prescott $80 million a year, whatever the hell his contract is,
I also wouldn't be the general manager if I was the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, but,
He wouldn't want to be your own GM? Would you trust people?
Yeah.
I think my ego's too big. I would want to be the GM, too.
Really?
I think I would, yeah.
Corn Pop, if I want to be the GM if you were an owner?
Dude, if you were a billionaire and you had enough money to buy an NFL team, you know how big your ego would be?
If you own the Blazers, would you be the owner / general
Without
manager?
a doubt, I would be. Without a doubt.
Then you'd have to answer
This is my
questions.
team. I'm not letting somebody decide what to do. This is my I bought this bitch.
If I were the Mariners owner, I'd probably just install myself as general
Thank
manager.
you.
Well, that's what
Everything,
they're
the buck
doing.
stops with me,
That's
baby.
right.
I mean, that's what the
you
Mariners
can
are
hire
doing.
somebody to help you with contracts and, hey, take a flyer on this guy. Give me advice. I'll have somebody in the room with me, but I'm the final. The buck stops at my desk.
Baseball's the weird one. Teams that allow the general manager power, you see that all the time. You also see that, the Mariners are evidence that their owner is their general manager.
Yeah.
You think Jerry DiPoto just willingly doesn't want to give any single one good player a contract?
You have $47 to spend this offseason. Go see what you can
Right.
make work, Jerry.
He was quoted in 2017 or 18 saying we are building to this point where we will have more payroll flexibility to go after the guys that we need.
That's because Stanton
to
told him to go
supplement.
live.
Exactly. No, I
Tell
genuinely
the fans what they need to hear. Season ticket renewals are up soon.
I genuinely think Stanton fed him something at the time. That's it'll keep DiPoto happy. And then, I've got a perfect reason after the Root Sports deal collapses to tell you, hey, nope, sorry, no money.
Mariner vision.
Oh, well, I apologize there. I did talk Cowboys when the NFL playoffs are going on.
How dare you?
I saw the
You
I saw
teased
the
that we didn't
report.
talk about a game. And
I
then-
know. I saw the report. I got distracted because it's
think-
the Cowboys.
You think any of these quarterbacks that are playing in the wild card weekend tomorrow are out on a yacht like Drew Aller reportedly was yesterday before the games?
Now, was that confirmed?
I don't know, but it's just
No
hilarious to
chance
see.
that's true.
It's like if
There was
it
a picture
is-
of him on a
Yeah.
yacht, and everybody's like, "This is somebody had like a
out in the
timestamp."
ocean or on a dock, hanging on a yacht for
like
10
on
minutes.
I look
It
more dockish.
It was like
say
the
hi to
open
a
water
family
was in the
friend?
background, but he's out there with a group of people like the day of a game. And if that is true, why the hell aren't you? I get everybody gets ready for a game differently, but I don't feel like, going out on a boat with a bunch of your buddies like you're going to go do a barbecue on an island.
OBJ
or
and the
so-
Giants. Off
Everybody
weekend.
should have learned that lesson from the Giants.
I think everybody
Come on.
had until yesterday, I
Until Drew
guess.
Aller went out on a boat. You don't want to be on a boat when you're
Just-
playing a playoff game, man.
It's just alleged. It's just a stupid story. But it made me wonder. I'm like, I wonder if Jalen is out celebrating a little bit before the wild card match.
We have all these wild card games. I don't know about you, but Mark's, he gives his thoughts on the Eagles and where he thinks all that is, right? Is it not interesting that he, and I think a lot of people throughout this country with this weekend, he names Buffalo Denver. And there's a lot building here where people, I know that spread has actually gone Buffalo's way, but it just feels like the noise is a lot of Bo Nix in Denver, Denver hanging in Buffalo. I don't know how much traction it's really going to be in the game, but it does feel like some of the noise is hey, how about Denver at Buffalo? As rookie quarterbacks tend to show us from time to time that they're rookies. They're going to learn.
Sometimes they have bad moments in the playoffs.
Also,
quite often they have bad moments in the playoffs.
Look, Denver had a nice season
They
here.
did.
It's odd that so many people look at that game and in the same way say Buffalo can win the Super Bowl.
Now, we could talk about that next, or we could get into the Cowboys' offensive line depth. What would you like to do? Probably the playoff game. You want to go to the playoff game? Okay.
I'm going to vote that.
I'm just checking. I'm just making sure we're on the same page. Crunch Time, as always, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. Let's talk about that game because I don't understand the narrative at all. John Mark's like the Commanders over Tampa as his upset special. We haven't talked about that one much either. Some more thoughts on Wild Card Weekend. We'll get into the Ohio State-Texas game in the final hour. Sprague in the line coming up at 8:30. Get your fake sponsors in 503-864-6326. Loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fam.
The Fan.
First on the Fan, Notre Dame getting the win over Penn State with a late field goal in the college football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl. 27-24 the final. Riley Leonard throwing for a touchdown, running for another. Jeremiah Love also running for a score. The Fighting Irish, of course, facing the winner between Ohio State and Texas in the Cotton Bowl. That is tonight for the national championship. We'll see if the Buckeyes, who are a 6-point favorite, can get it done. Kickoff set for 4:30 on ESPN. On to the association. The Trailblazers taking the loss to the Mavericks in Dallas in the second of a back-to-back. 117-111 the final. Portland heading back home to face the Heat on Sunday. On the college hardwood, the 15th-ranked Ducks slipping by Ohio State 73-71. Jackson Shellstad and Nate Biddle combining for 45 points in the win. Elsewhere, the Beavs taking an overtime loss on the road to Santa Clara, 82-81 the final. The Pilots also dropping a road game that was in San Francisco to the University of San Francisco, 81-72. The NFL announcing it will move the Rams wildcard matchup with the Vikings scheduled for Monday in LA to State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The NBA also postponed last night's matchup between the Lakers and Hornets for a date in the future because of the wildfires in Los Angeles. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan. It's gonna get wild this week.
And that should do it. Extra special here in Denver. They'd only beaten the Chiefs one time in the last 18 meetings. And today they hammer Kansas City to clinch the last playoff spot in the AFC.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
A great story. The fans deserve it.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube.
How do you like me now?
That's where every day. Good morning, everybody. Hope your Fridays are going great. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Sprague line coming up at 8:30. Fake sponsors welcome. 503-864-6326. A thought at the Vancouver Ford text line saying, Hatless Sprague has me wondering this morning, is Corn Pop winning the morning show hairline wars? Way to go, Schulte. What a wild card weekend upset. Now you both got me beat. My hairline is receding fast and I wear a hat every day.
Mine is too. I'll probably win the
You're
gray
holding
hair
on
wars.
pretty strong over there, Schulte. I don't know if you're receding. You got a good
head of hair.
You got a good head of hair.
I appreciate you guys for saying that. I just got my hair cut on Wednesday, and I felt like the little, she had to take the clippers up to the top, to start kind of where the widow's peak is forming. So I can feel it going, but
Have you always had a widow's peak, though?
I don't know. I would
Fading and a widow's peak are kind of two different things, though.
I would say no, but I do my hair in a faux hawk, and I've done it that way for 20 years. So maybe it's just
a faux hawk guy.
starting to
Big faux hawk guy.
Look at my round face. It just it just fits my round face well. That's the only reason.
You gotta have
I'm
a
stuck
point
with
at the top to make it. Yeah,
kind of makes it longer. Yeah,
My oldest hates when I
there.
shave my head. She just prefers me to have hair, and I just look at her and I go, I'm ugly. What do you want from me? Like, just let me do what I want to do.
Well, if it's not a sheer example of my laziness this weekend, I plan on looking exactly like you on Monday. We'll see if I can get that goal accomplished.
Awesome.
There's a lot of football going on this
Two
weekend.
white guys
so
in Portland, Oregon with buzz cuts.
I'm going to wear my Oakley sunglasses, too, on the show. See how that goes on Monday.
Ooh, I'll wear mine, too. But I won't have a buzz cut. My wife will kill me.
Are you back on Monday? Where's Swag at next week?
No. Swag will be back. But
I say, where the hell is he going
I don't
now?
know his schedule anymore.
He's got a guy's trip coming up.
He's got
working
4 or
another
5 months
job.
where he just like disappears. He's coming, he's going. I don't know if he's on.
By the way,
leaving in the middle.
Nobody out there listening right now, send him a text. I don't even know if I want to say this on the air right now. Should I not say this on the air? Should I wait?
We have about an hour. He's got an hour.
Should I say anything? I don't want to jinx it. Because I'm in a tight contested battle with him, and I'm now ahead of him in the standings.
You want to win like that?
I have no problem winning however I win. I'll Connor Stallions my way to a championship if I need to. I'll take steroids to hit 73 home runs. I don't care. Winning is all that matters.
You remember that commercial? It was a sportsmanship commercial basketball game, It was like a big state title
It's the
game.
worst commercial that's ever been made in mankind history.
So Pablo Torre does a lot. He does a really fun podcast. He dives into random things, and that's one of the things he dove into is who is that guy?
Sorry,
And
coach, the ball was off me. We don't have to say that. No, I need to, man. I need to. It's the right thing to do.
He tells the ref changes the call.
Like that would ever happen. No review process here. The player just saying the ball went off my finger.
Anyways, that guy ended up playing basketball with Dame at Weber State.
Really?
And they were watching TV at a dorm room or an apartment or something, and everybody realized that it was him in that commercial. And so they all made fun of him and laughed. And he didn't realize doing that commercial, he was going to get made fun of for it.
Forever.
And so he has some regret doing it. Dame was interviewed by Pablo Torre's podcast and said, what'd you think of it? He was your teammate. And then they said, would you do that? And Dame goes, hell no, I'm cheating anyway.
It's so perfect. I love that.
So
ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I
That's
would
right.
say he has less than an hour. He has not texted us picks.
So nobody reach out. Nobody say anything. He's got till the end of the show, and we'll see what happens. Our picks are coming up in 24 minutes. We were talking in the last segment. You closed it bringing up the Denver-Buffalo game.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of momentum on the side of the Broncos covering that number and making that a ball game.
I listened to a few NFL podcasts from the pundits who are smarter than me, and there was more love for Denver keeping this close, if not pressing Buffalo a little bit.
And the first thought I have when I hear that is, one, and this is all going to be great content for Monday, we'll save all this, what am I missing? And how much of this has to do with what is the most recent thing on our mind? And is there a worse thing to put stock in than what Denver did this past weekend? Like, I'm seriously wondering, why is there that belief that Denver's going to go on the road to a team who hasn't lost a home game all year? It's a rookie quarterback on the road. Now, I know C.J. Stroud won a playoff game last year. He was phenomenal as a rookie. Do you remember what happened when they went on the road and played at Baltimore?
Yeah, they got
it was 34 to 10.
Or, they barely scored.
He was 19 of 33 for 175 yards, and they said, bottle up the run game. The guy's not going to beat us. Guess what happened? They ran the ball for 38 yards as a team, and they got blown out. The game was over in the third quarter.
That was also, I think, a better Baltimore team than this Buffalo team.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I love the Bills. I picked them preseason. It's my
13
one good
and
take.
4, yeah.
I think why you're hearing people mention this as maybe an upset or maybe like, it's kind of tight. All of what you laid out's fact, right? Rookie quarterback going on the road, especially Buffalo, man. I know Denver gets
It's
snow.
not
and
an
it's cold.
easy place to go play,
Buffalo's
dude.
a hard place to play.
You're not playing the Chargers where the majority of the crowd's going to be your fans.
But I think the reason it's not about what they did against the backup Chief players. I actually think it's just a generalization of their season. Nick's had a good rookie year.
He did.
He's second all time in rookie touchdown passes. He's faster somehow than most people thought. Like, there were a lot of people who didn't know he could run as well as he can. And so I think you pair that with their defense overall playing pretty damn good. Zach Allen had a great year on the line. Obviously, Surtain in the secondary. I think it's a combination. I also think it's partly Buffalo was great, right? Allen is probably going to win the MVP. But when you look at Buffalo, who do you point at after Allen? Is it Cook? Is it Coleman? I don't know if it's Cooper. We thought that was going to be an amazing pick, but he hasn't really done all that much.
No, probably Cook.
And Kincaid, I think it's Cook, but I think that's why. I think it's if you bottle up Allen, he doesn't run rampant. Is Shakir going to torch him? I think he absolutely can, but I think what people are doing is Buffalo has been interesting. They got rid of their best weapon. They've had a better year. And Denver snuck up on a lot of people. Bo Nix had a good rookie year. They've got some studs on defense. So I probably lean a little more that Buffalo runs away from Denver in this one. But I think that's why, just guessing, you see people think Denver's going to keep it tight.
Yeah, the hard thing I have with Denver, everything you said is spot on, and I part of it for me, if I try to make the other side of the argument, would be Buffalo's history in the playoffs. Sans the 1 year with the 13-second game in Kansas City, where they seemed like that was a game they probably should have won.
Still can't believe they lost.
Right, still should have no business losing that game, and maybe they win a Super Bowl that year if they win that game.
Very
right?
well, yeah.
Who knows how that all plays out? they have had bad moments. Remember a couple of years ago, Skylar Thompson coming to town, and you're like, wait a minute, Skylar Thompson's competitive in Buffalo. How's this happening? So I think that would be the argument that I would make. The hard thing that I have with Denver, and this is, again, I don't want to take anything away or sound like I'm negative. Knicks was great. Sean Payton had a good year. They're in cap hell with the Russell Wilson situation. If they eat all that dead money, they have been a tremendous success this year. When you look at teams who actually played guys, I'm eliminating the last game of the regular season because Kansas City played nobody and they had no interest in that game whatsoever. You know how many teams in the playoffs Denver beat this year?
I don't.
They have 10 wins on the season. Again, I'm not counting the last week of the regular season.
You have to. You're counting playoff teams that they beat the Chiefs, whether that's.
I'm not counting. I know. Okay. 38 now. Come on.
Count no countsies.
That's a no countsies. That's 100% a no countsies. But that's fine if you want to give it to them. The only other one they beat was Tampa in Week 3 of the season. That's the only other win over. Their other wins were against the Jets, 10-9.
That was a shocking win, by the way.
They lost their first 2 games of the year, then they came out of nowhere and steamrolled Tampa.
Just like that.
Beat the Jets, beat the Raiders, beat the Saints, beat the Panthers, beat the Falcons, beat the Raiders, beat the Browns, beat the Colts.
Yeah.
Those are their wins.
And didn't beat the Bengals at the end of the year.
Didn't beat the Bengals at the end of the year. They didn't beat the Chargers at the end of the year. They lost to the Chiefs. Now, granted, yes, on a blocked field goal, but they lost the game. They got smoked in Baltimore 41-10. They lost the first game to the Chargers, and then at the beginning of the year, they lost to the Steelers. So when they have played playoff competition, it has not gone their way. And again, this might all age like spoiled milk, but there's an interesting story this weekend of young quarterbacks and what they can do. Because we asked John Marks, where is your upset this weekend in the NFL playoffs? And he pointed to the Commanders going on the road to Tampa, which is a very trendy pick for a lot of people. And I, again, don't blame people for having that thought. Tampa's been a very weird team where one week they hang half 100 on Carolina, and you're like, damn, here comes this juggernaut. And then the next week they're down and they almost lose to Spencer Rattler at home. I don't know what to make of them. But the storyline of rookie quarterbacks and how they're going to play this weekend in multiple spots, whether it's Bo on the road in Buffalo or Daniels on the road in Tampa, to me is one of the bigger storylines of Wild Card Weekend.
I do too. They had such good years too. Bo being the more surprising one, I think, than Daniels.
Yeah.
Because of how good they were this year. For a while, that was an offensive rookie of the year debate. And it was until kind of the end. And then Daniels had, 5 touchdown passes. Bo Nix lost a game, and I think that's well wrapped up for Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
But because they were so good and one of them being surprising to many, I think that's why you're getting this. Also, just like matchups, styles make fights, right? So Tampa's defense is interesting in the sense of how much damage can Daniels do with his legs and how much pressure. I said this about Bo Nix earlier, too. How much pressure that puts on defenses when you have that added threat of, is he going to run? All right, now we're coming up because we want to stop the run. Oh, now there's a little dump pass. He's going to go get 15 yards. And Bo has, a lot of times this year, been a yak monster. Here's a little 4-yard, 3-yard, 2-yard pass. By the way, go look at the Chief game. You can go look at Next Gen Stats. They throw all the completions and completions. The completions are in green. I counted them. I think he had 12 of his completions were within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. So it's not, it doesn't have to be a negative. There's a lot of yak monster stuff happening there. Can he do that by applying the pressure with his legs? And I think the same thing with Jaden Daniels. And also, Buffalo, much better than Tampa, in my opinion. So maybe the Buffalo upset stuff is disrespectful. Tampa, they're weird.
They are very weird.
They're very weird. I don't agree that
grant you
they
that.
ended the year playing poor football, the way Mark said that. I watched them absolutely house the Panthers 2 weeks ago. But last weekend was concerning. They needed the very end of that game to beat a Saints team that the week before against the Raiders looked like they basically quit. By the way, rookie quarterbacks starting playoff games on the road. It's happened 22 times. Would you care to guess the record?
Probably not very good.
What's your guess? 22 games. Corn Pop, what's your guess? 22
games.
starts for rookie quarterback
I'll
on
say
the road.
5-17.
Okay.
I'll go
Corn
like
Pop?
7-15. Not great.
Those are great guesses. Dirt nailed it. It's 5-17. Rookie quarterbacks going on the road.
It's a tough thing to ask her to do,
5-17.
I don't care. I mean, they both have been really good this year. That's just, and I'm with you. Like Buffalo is a tougher test, tougher place to play than Tampa is, and they're a better team than Tampa is. I think the season has proven that. It's just a tall ask, man. This C.J. Stroud got his first playoff game at home last year. That was a big benefit. Where the Browns came to town, it was Joe Flacco, and he got him home, and everything went their way in that game. And then they got boat raced the second round when they had to go on the road. Maybe they both shocked the world. I wouldn't be 10 out of 10 shocked if the Commanders do win in Tampa. That's a storyline that we're just trusting these guys to go on the road, despite how good they've been this year. I'm not there with rookie quarterbacks on the road in the playoffs.
And the funny thing is, we highlight the Tampa game against the Saints where they were down double digits. They had to come back. They needed to win that game because of what Atlanta potentially was going to do against Carolina. Do you know what we don't talk about? We somehow don't talk about the fact that Jaden Daniels started that game last weekend at Dallas, a garbage-ass Cowboy team, and he eventually subbed out. But when he subbed out, they weren't winning.
They were, Mariota ended up leading him to a comeback.
They looked terrible in that game.
Yeah.
So we don't highlight that, but somehow we highlight the team that did play their starters the whole game, but they won.
Interesting wild card weekend, man. Any notes we haven't got to yet? Any other storylines we haven't talked about yet? You guys want to get to? Anything left on the bone? Any meat on that bone? Because we'll save a little bit of the Vikings-Rams stuff for Monday.
Yeah, since
I feel like we've circled kind of Packers and Eagles. We just did a little Commanders,
we
Bucks.
haven't really touched
Broncos,
on.
Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Chargers, Texans. We hit them all.
Bill's job opening up possibly, like Nick
If they lose, yes.
Like
If they lose this weekend, yes, he will get
that's
fired.
a possibility. And, Bill Belichick to Buffalo. I'm just kidding.
It's very interesting that there could be jobs looming with some of these teams if they lose these games.
How many coaches get fired if they lose this weekend? Sirianni, McDermott.
Definitely.
That might be it.
Is that it?
Yeah, because
you're not firing Peyton. You're not firing O'Connell. You're not.
No,
that's it.
I'm trying to
think.
think. That's it.
I don't think they're firing Todd Bowles.
That would be the only other one that I was looking at to see what his record was.
Why would they?
I mean, you won your division 2 years in a row. They've won it multiple times since Tom Brady. They're hosting a playoff game.
This is year 3 in Tampa for him. They lost to the Cowboys in the wild card round. His first year as a head coach, I think that was Brady's last.
Yeah, it was
year?
9-8 Brady. They slipped into the playoffs.
And then last year they blew out the Eagles, then lost to the Lions.
Pushed the Lions
divisional
in that
round.
game, despite Baker throwing multiple
They've been in the
picks.
playoffs. He's won in the NFC South all 3 years, never winning more than 10 games in the regular season.
Mine is basically like, if you're Pittsburgh, and I'm well aware Rooney's not making a decision because he's just Mr. Stability. If Baltimore does to the Steelers what some think they can do, even without Zay Flowers, I mean, we're just really shaking our heads and moving on in Pittsburgh, and then signing
What do you
Russell
do at
Wilson?
quarterback?
Or
That's the biggest question
Fields?
for him.
I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Pittsburgh fan bases, I feel like, have splintered on him, where you can't argue the whole no under 500 to our bet earlier, Corn Pop, but you don't take him serious, and he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
It's been a long time since he won a playoff game.
2025, my
they're
man.
At 10 point. I mean, they're a double-digit dog in a lot of places this
never
weekend.
said that they were going to play great during the playoffs. I just said they were going to go over 500.
I'm saying to our bet of he never finishes below 500.
Gotcha.
When is that not enough
wins
anymore?
A game after that, the rest of the way, and they're like,
Yeah.
they're 10-7, or they're 9-8, and then they don't win a playoff game.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part. Is it's almost like a Bo Pelini thing at Nebraska, where it's like, this is great, we're in a spot where we like to be, but you can't win the biggest games that we want you to win.
But it's firing him a mistake.
It's firing. Are you going to get a guy who can't go above 500 every year? Because it's not easy to go above 500 every year. So it's like, it's a hard dilemma to be in. But I'm with you. I don't think he gets fired, but that's another one to keep an eye on.
I don't feel like they've cared about offense since they had Bell, Brown, and Roethlisberger.
No, it's been a long time, and they got to answer the question at quarterback, and I don't think Russell Wilson is a long-term answer. Maybe it's Justin Fields. I don't know. But Wild Card Weekend is here. I can't wait. It all starts tomorrow at 1:30. What do we make of this guy's decision? Is Sprague right, or am I right? We'll dive into those questions next. Sprague and Line coming up bottom of the hour. Back after this on The Fam.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Dan Campbell on a weekly basis.
It's been a hell of a test. I'm still driving.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, keep your fake sponsors rolling in. 503-864-6326. That's a Vancouver Ford text line. We'll Sprague the line coming up bottom of the hour. Shout out John Daly. Thanks to Harley for the reminder on this, by the way, too. I had this in my notes today.
Say John Daly.
Yeah, it's John Daly.
Oh,
you didn't know that? He's got hit hard. He's got a country song.
I didn't know he had a country song.
Oh, it slaps. It
I
slaps.
I was confused. I'm like, there's a John Daly country singer.
You're pulling into a parking lot to go play some golf. You got this blaring on the speakers. You're ready to roll. You're going to hit hard on the first tee.
Okay.
Since 2017, Sean Payton has coached 42 games against bald head coaches.
Okay.
You want to guess what his record is?
Does he own the follically challenged?
He's 30-12.
How about that?
Against bald head coaches.
Now,
Harley just commented that. I totally forgot I had it in my notes. Sean McDermott, bald this weekend, 30-12. That's a 714 win percentage against bald head coaches.
Can we name the bald coaches?
No. That's a lot of games, though, against bald head coaches in the last 7 years.
I just want to know the 31 coaches and
how many
of those
out
are
there?
repeat winners.
Freddie Kitchens has got to be in there a couple of times.
Was Kitchens bald?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, you consider that.
I couldn't actually. I don't know if Freddie Kitchens had hair.
Well, also, what do you label bald? Because I think he had the horseshoe going. Is that technically bald to you? Or do you have to be cleanly shaven Jason Sakanic bald?
Well, see,
Does that make sense?
Some of his pictures, he has the shaved head. Some he doesn't, so I would call it bald.
I think the top of the head is bald, but I think he tried to hang on to the sides a little bit.
Him and Josh Allen doing Snow Angels after they won the division against, I think it was the Niners.
I think it was, yeah.
That was just a great moment on Sports.
Hell of a scene. So if you're into that kind of thing, there you go. Sean Payton doesn't lose a bald head coaches very often, and Sean McDermott is bald this weekend. So another theory of why
the hair wins, huh?
Maybe a theory why Denver will make it a game. Carson Beck entered the transfer portal yesterday. Ooh, buddy, it sounds
Can't
like
wait for Miami to pay him $4 million to throw picks.
He's going to go to Miami. If you're asking why is he going to go to Miami, well, one, Miami does have money to spend, and that's just how the transfer quarterback thing works. Also, his girlfriend plays basketball at Miami.
A Cavender twin.
He's got one of the Cavender twins.
He does, yeah.
Are they the new Kim Kardashian curse? Because isn't one of them dating one of the Ferguson, the Cowboys tight end, and he had a terrible year this year. And Carson Beck was horrendous this year.
Oh, we're blaming the Cavender
I think we're going to
twins
start
for
blaming
athletes not
them. This is
playing
the new
well?
Kardashian thing. Whoever dates a Kardashian, your career is going to be over soon.
Can I ask you, maybe because it's not the last name Kardashian, Timothée Chalamet, my favorite movie actor, he's dating a Kardashian.
He's your favorite movie actor right now.
You could put that dude in anything, and he is awesome in
Have
that
you seen
role.
the new Bob Dylan movie?
I'm waiting for a random Tuesday to go out of the show and go to a 10 a.m. showing by
Go
myself.
get your Tuesday special?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to go see that.
Yeah, he's so far overriding the curse, but give it time. We'll see if he does. I don't know if he... Well, technically, she's a Jenner, too. She's not a Kardashian.
Okay, but what about Barker?
Oh, yeah.
Barker just had a kid with the oldest Kardashian.
Yeah. How's his career? Are they still tours? Is Blink-182 still the
Yes,
thing?
they are.
Still
they're
going
kicking
strong?
A.
They got back together.
Okay.
He's
They were
still drumming.
just in Seattle or Portland?
I mean, she was always the best Kardashian anyways.
In my opinion.
Yeah, she always won that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Carson Beck entered the transfer portal. He's going to go to Miami. Miami needed a quarterback, and if only they had one this year, they would have made the college football playoff. It was a bummer.
What I would say, though, is, I would put Miami as the favorite. If somebody's going to overpay him, that's desperate.
Ohio State was also in the conversation as the teams he's looking at. I think it was Miami, Ohio State, and one other one.
So
I can't remember.
it's the same suspects as last year looking for quarterbacks. Is Florida State in this as well? Who knows? But Miami also lost their defensive line coach.
They did,
to
Joe
Arizona.
Salavea.
Salavea, formerly of Oregon and Washington State. What I'm curious about is I have an opinion on Carson Beck as a quarterback. I also had an opinion about Kyle McCord. And then Kyle McCord went to Syracuse and just slang the rock.
Led the country in passing yards.
So much like we do with Darnold or Geno or Baker or these redemptions in the NFL, maybe we need to do that in college as well. Like we see these guys and you say, well, he's not very good. He's a bum, a lot of hype, no delivery. And then they go to a different spot and somehow play much, much different and better.
That's a very fair point. We'll see if Carson Beck ends up being the next case study of that. I am big on Ohio State tonight. You like Texas to keep it close. I think the biggest question that I have, and Josh Pate brought this up earlier in the week, it's been the bugaboo for the Longhorns at times this year. And when you look at the way they played against Arizona State, I think it also rung true. The biggest question to me in this game, if you want to be positive about going to be close or Texas pulls off an upset, can they run the football against Ohio State? Because when
they couldn't run it against Arizona State.
And that's where I just
Their offensive line is banged to hell.
Against Arizona State, they had 18 carries. Now, they are getting one of their starters on the offensive line back who did not play against Arizona State, so maybe that has an impact. Weisner, their top back right now, 18 carries, 45 yards against Arizona State. He did not have a run longer than 7 yards.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll see how this game ends up playing out. If they can't run the football, that's where I just don't know how I feel about that Texas offense making chunk plays. They can clearly have big splashes, and they did early in the game against Arizona State. They did on 4th and 13. Like, they came up with plays when they needed to. I think this is such a different animal than what they've seen the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
Now, I wouldn't disagree with most of your Texas thoughts. I think kind of all of us feel that way, given what we've seen Texas be in the SEC title game against Arizona State not that long ago.
Hell, even Clemson gave them a ball game at home, if we're being fair. Clemson had a chance to make that
Clemson
a one-score game in
Yes.
the first round of the playoffs, and they got stopped on the 1-yard line.
I would agree with that. I'm also kind of curious where your thoughts come in because you watched your team lose to the Ohio
That's a
State
big part of
Buckeyes.
it for sure for me. Of just, can they continue to do it? Now, I asked that same question after the Tennessee game, and I remember saying going into the Rose Bowl, it's really hard to play your best game twice in a row, and then Ohio State was up 34-0 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
So can they just continue this steamroller, or are they going to have at some point a down or a clunker? And can Texas's defense make this game ugly and give their offense short fields with turnovers? Like, that's their recipe if they want to pull off an upset.
Well, this is what's interesting. When you go to look at long scrimmage plays given up, and this is the only saving grace of why I'm taking Texas to keep it within that point spread number. Texas largely doesn't give up big chunk plays. When you go to 20-plus yard explosives, they are 7th in the country. They've given up 38 of those. If they cut that down by 2 plays, they're top 3. And so Texas is not a defense that largely gives up big plays. How did Ohio State beat Oregon? Kind of similar to how Oregon beat Ohio State.
Big plays.
Big plays. And Jeremiah Smith, Agbuka, we know what they have at tight end. Obviously, their backs. If you can neutralize some of those explosives they had against Oregon, I thought part of Oregon's other problem wasn't just how awesome Jeremiah Smith was. I thought they kind of had some poor tackling. They had moments they could have gotten guys down a lot earlier.
Blown coverages, guys wide open in their secondary.
What's their D coordinator at Tech? Formerly UW.
God, what's his name off the top of my head?
Kwiatkowski? I don't know how to say it. I always say it wrong. If he got that tape and he is given this time to prepare, they cut down those explosives. That's why I think Texas can keep it close. Also, what I thought Oregon's defensive line was going to do to Ohio State's makeshift offensive line, they didn't do. Texas' defensive line also has the same talent to be able to do it. So are they able to break through and put that pressure on Will Howard? That poor tackling, poor coverages, and Will Howard having all day to throw, I mean, that was a recipe for disaster from the get. I wonder if Texas can disrupt that, limit the explosives, and give themselves more of a shot, despite having their woes offensively.
I think my biggest question going into this game that we'll get to Sprague in the line is Texas's defense a paper tiger? Just in terms of all the numbers bear out that they are one of the best defenses in the country. There's no disagreement with that whatsoever. You just pointed to the explosive plays. Go look at their schedule and tell me who the best offense is they played all year. Because they are the Indiana of the SEC. They didn't play... they didn't have to play even Alabama wasn't even that good this year. They didn't have to play them. They didn't have to play Tennessee in their offense. Georgia wasn't lighting anybody up offensively.
They played Georgia twice, and they lost twice, and I just watched Notre Dame, who's going to the title. Beat Georgia.
Now, with a backup quarterback,
well,
sure, but Georgia had a backup quarterback in the second half of the SEC title game. They took on Arizona State. They gave up 31 points. They took on Clemson. They gave up 24. Like, they weren't playing world-class offenses all year in the SEC. They have had a cakewalk of a schedule this year in that conference. That just happens in mega conferences. Doesn't mean that Texas can't do it tonight. To me, that's the biggest question. Their defense statistically is great. They have not seen anything close to this galaxy of an offense that Ohio State will bring to the table. Hopefully we get another good game like we did last night. Notre Dame, Penn State lived up to the hype. But that one is tonight, and then we'll find out who's playing in the national championship. We'll answer poll questions to close it up. Let's get to Sprague in the line. Your fake sponsors are welcome. 503-864-6326. That's next. First year's Corn Pop with SportsCenter.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, Notre Dame beats Penn State on a late field goal in the college football playoff semifinal at the Orange Bowl, 27-24 the final. Riley Leonard totaling 235 yards through the air and a touchdown. He ran for another while Jeremiah Love added another score on the ground. The Fighting Irish, of course, advancing to the national championship game with the win to face the winner of the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas. That game is tonight. The Buckeyes a 6-point favorite in that one. Kickoff set for 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. In the association, the Blazers taking the loss to the Mavericks in Dallas in the second of a back-to-back, 117-111 the final. Portland now back home to face the Heat on Sunday. And on the college hardwood, the 15th-ranked Ducks slipping by Ohio State 73-71. Jackson Shellstad and Nate Biddle combining for 45 points in the win. Elsewhere, the Beavs taking a loss on the road to Santa Clara in overtime, 82-81. And the Portland Pilots dropping a road game to the University of San Francisco, 81-72. And in some NFL news, the Vegas Raiders firing general manager Tom Telesco after just a season. He gets the axe 2 days after former head coach Antonio Pierce. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan. This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
Sprague in the line.
Sprague in the line.
Sprague in the line.
Sprague in the line.
Well, don't look now, but boy, oh boy, are we red hot and rolling going into the playoffs. We'll get to our records here in a moment. Sprague in the Line brought to you by Corn Pop, always seen on the store shelf, but was never my top choice for cereal.
God, I got excited when my mom bought Corn Pops, man.
That said, long live Corn Pop.
Hell yeah,
Sprague in the
bro.
Line brought to you by Parking. When it comes to picking games, Sprague prefers his picks like he does his park jobs, quick and full of blind spots. Wow. Sprague in the Line brought to you by, hold on, let me get some of these in there.
Hard to disagree with some of these texts once in a while, you know?
Sprague in the Line brought to you by Sensitivity Training from Skip Bayless. Still a better investment than a Sprague pick.
You know, I could change your life, honey.
God.
Did you see, by the way,
Yeah,
follow
1.5
up
million
on that?
sitting around?
Did you see Jason Whitlock come out and act like he also could have been involved with those beautiful ladies?
I did see that,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, come on, guys. If you look at Charlie Dixon,
What did he say? Peanut butter skin? Like he was like, even you still had to bring up food. Huh?
Yeah, you still had to do it, huh? You eating peanut butter right now? Sprague in the Line brought to you by a shirt swap with Josh Pate. His stretched out sleeves are guaranteed to make you look worse than a Sprague pick.
By the way, Fox Sports kind of unfortunately did the right thing. They just acted like nothing happened.
They're
went
just
with
going
all
on
their
business
shows.
as usual.
No comments,
Nothing
no
to see here.
thoughts. Just welcome in. Let's talk sports.
We take this very seriously. Two is better than Herbert. Sprague in the Line brought to you by James Franklin. Remember, it could be worse. We could be taking Sprague's picks.
Well, 1-15. I mean, that has felt the last couple weeks like what my record.
Sprague's got a better record than that on the year. Sprague in the Line brought to you by, in collaboration with James Franklin and Drew Aller. Whatever the Sprague pick is, wait 20 seconds before the game starts and then bet on the other team. I saw a lot of that. Our buddy Ken Barkley had a tweet you responded to yesterday. It was great. That was like, we're really like getting in on this James Franklin against the top 5 team thing. Like, we're really doing this.
I had to
Everybody's
send him the
jumping back
trap.
on. It's a trap. Sprague Live brought to you by Corn Pop's Negativity. Surprised he's not saying bad news for the Ducks men's basketball to get a win in Ohio State last night.
Another quad one win. How dare they?
Anybody that thinks a coach wakes up and loves replacing a starter All-American on the roster, come on, you guys. In a vacuum, a guy leaving a school.
Why did you
Why did we do
on,
it?
Corn
Come
Pop.
on, Corn Pop. Calm down over there.
Need you to chill in some milk a little bit, soften up a little bit.
Loosen up. Get your picks ready. Sprague Line brought to you by Captain Crunch. It will hurt you in a satisfying way, where a Sprague pick will just hurt you.
Yeah, that'll leave you, in pain.
And one more. Sprague Line brought to you by Tinkle's 22-92 road record. Somehow still a better record than people who bet on Sprague's picks.
I wish I was making that stat up. He is legitimately 22-92 on
That
the
is
road.
so bad, dude. That is so. What is it with your teams winning on the road? Your football team can't do it.
All right, hey, why don't you beat Ohio State?
Can your baseball team? We just did last night. We talking about bitch? Wait till we play them in baseball too. We're a baseball school now. Here's
can't
how we
get you
did last week. A combined as a show.
Oh my God.
1-8.
Well-
1-8. The only winning pick was my Chargers minus 4.5. So you went 0-3, Swag went 0-3, and I went 1-2.
Can I defend one little?
I mean, there's not
Can I
really much to
try?
defend, but try. Go ahead.
Thank you. That's loser game show music. I honestly, if you gave me the option, I wouldn't make picks in week 18. I think making picks in week 18, people that win love to tell you how good they are, and then nobody talks about how impossible it is to tell what bad team's going to try hard, what good team that needs to win isn't going to try or win or not play well. Are you betting overs? Because I bet overs I didn't hit. Unders hit in the games I bet, and then I found out that the overs went 11-4, and I went,
did.
oh, I'm glad I hit one of the 4.
Just missed the wrong ones there. I bet Bucks minus 13.5 against the Saints, and I thought that was free money.
Oh, I did.
When
too.
I placed that bet, I like, Vegas is so stupid. They don't know anything. Bucks are going to kill them. So here we go. Season record. Sprague after your 0-3, 32-25. Still a terrific regular season.
Sir.
And don't look now, but guess who's in second place?
Are you in second now?
26-30-1
Yeah, well, yeah,
is my
brother.
record after 1-2. Swag went 0-3. He's 26-31. So I got
out to a big lead again.
I got
year.
a tie that's giving me the difference
Yeah.
right now. I'm a half game up on Jason Swigard
that?
for last place and Sprague the line. And technically, the tee box is mine after 1-2 last weekend, so I will start in Philly on Sunday. I've liked it all week. I'm trying to take a dog this weekend. I don't know how to feel about some of the young quarterbacks. I don't trust Russell Wilson. To me, this one makes sense. You know how I feel about the Eagles, and I have all year. I don't trust their quarterback. I think Love plays, makes a difference. I don't know if they pull off the win. It's now up to 5.5 with the A.J. Brown news, so I'll take those points all day. Packers plus 5.5 Sunday in Philly.
I'm probably going to wait till game day for this to see the line. This is one of those games like you made the bet yesterday. Actually,
I got it at 4.5.
4.5. So
like
5.5 is a better gift if you like the Packers here. I'm going to wait till game time. I want to be sure I see A.J. Brown's name. I've kind of loved this all week, and that goes without knowing about A.J. Brown. I loved the matchup. I actually think Fangio's defense against no Christian Watson. We'll see if Green Bay is going to get the ball to Dobbs and Reed, and are they going to be able to run the football with Jacobs? Love's hand injury is concerning. I'm taking Philly, and it's largely because of their defense. I think Saquon's also going to be able to run the football here. Slow start. I think they ultimately pull away. I'm going to take Philadelphia minus the 5.5.
Head-to-head right out of the gate.
Hoping it drops to 5 to 4.5.
Yeah, wait to bet that. If you like the Eagles, wait to bet that one till kickoff because it'll come down. Schultz, what do you like this week?
I like the Steelers-Ravens under 43.5. The Ravens have been scoring a hell of a lot of points lately to end this season. At some point, I do feel like that trend has to end.
Sure.
Playoffs are going to be a good time to do it. Yeah, the defense will show up for Pittsburgh, but they're not going to score a lot of points either. They haven't the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah.
I just think under for that total 43.5 is the play.
You nailed the Cincy-Pittsburgh one, too, when you filled in a week ago, so I give you kudos on that one. The other part, too, is Nose Flowers. How does that change offensively for Baltimore? I know Henry's been a beast, and Andrews has really come on the last few weeks, but the under might be a good play there, Schultz.
Very well could be. Next pickup for me, I'm going right out of the gate tomorrow at 1:30. Now, I'm with Costos, who we had on yesterday. He said, if you want this bet, you should get it at 2.5. I did not jump on it quickly enough to get it at 2.5, and it's currently at 3. But I'm still going to go down with the ship. I think the Chargers are the better team. I think they have the better quarterback. I think they've been more trustworthy this year. I think they have the better head coach.
Yeah.
And so this has push written all over it. If there is one, I would be pretty surprised if Houston wins. Famous last words, save for Monday. I'm all over the Chargers -3 tomorrow afternoon.
I'm trying not to cross over. We have one game where we're going against each other, but I think we like a lot of the same things this weekend. So I'm going to bet Chargers -3 too. I could see a blowout happening there. Just for the segment's sake, I'm going to go another game. This one's Monday, and I hate waiting when you spread the line for the Monday game. I'm just going to take better team. I know they played, and the Rams beat them the first time. I like the Vikings here in a bounce-back spot. Not that Glendale makes or breaks a big difference. I'm curious, not that it will determine. I am wondering how many Rams players, what's the fire impact for them? You've seen this with the Lakers. J.J. Redick's house burned down. So I don't know if anything has been reported on the Rams players, but now you're going from home, massive fires around. Now we're going to Glendale. It's kind of weird. I'm just going to take the Vikings. I think they're the better team despite them having lost the head-to-head here. I'm taking the Vikings -2.5.
Okay, Vikings 2.5 Monday. Schultz, you got one you want to throw out?
Yeah, I think it's another under. The Chargers-Texans, I know you were just betting on the Chargers to cover. I do think they're going to kick the Texans' ass, but under 42.5 with the Chargers' strong defense against Houston. Basically, what do they got? Like maybe half a tight end and a running back at this point. C.J. Stroud's not throwing to anybody. I just don't see them able to get outside of their. They're going to get him sacked like 5 times. They're not going to let him get outside of the pocket very often. Under 42.5, Chargers.
I love that
like
pick,
that
too.
pick.
I could see like 26-13.
Chargers have no problem mucking it up and winning that
They
game
want to.
20-3. I mean, they will make that as ugly and grind it down as quickly as they possibly
Khalil
can.
Mack is going to be in the backfield like the entire day.
It's a big day for Mack and Bosa, man. Those guys came back. They restructured their contract. You're playing a bad offensive line. Go dominate a football game in the playoffs. We'll see if they can do it.
Yeah.
Last one up for me. I'm going to go the other way on an over-under, and it's a game where I know I've said what I've said about rookie quarterbacks this week. I think the Commanders have the ability to score because of Jaden Daniels' legs. And the Bucs, to me, are a hot and cold team, and they were cold offensively last week. I think they're going to be hot this week. I know Lattimore's back for Washington, so maybe that changes it a little bit. I'm on the over of 50.5 between the Commanders and the Buccaneers.
I'm also going to jump on that under of the Chargers-Texans game. That'd be my different pick. I think the Chargers win. Not much to add other than I kind of agree. I see
What's
like
that number, 42.5?
42.5. I feel like 26-13 is a good kind of look ahead there a little bit. Even if there's another field goal, 26-16, you're still hitting it.
All right, there you go. Sprague in the line every single Friday, brought to you by Arby's. Hopefully Texas doesn't have it all at halftime so they don't let it run down their leg.
You know who we didn't get picks from?
We got 13 minutes.
Didn't get any picks.
And we
If
got
he doesn't submit them, he goes over. That's the rule.
I just need to give me one win. Just give me a 1-2 weekend. Make a little ground up. Here we go.
Now,
Keep building that lead.
Here's my only
3-0 weekend. Could be over.
contention against you on this, and
Yeah.
I said this once, I'm saying it again. You earlier this year, he did this. You gave him the leeway, and you started catching up, and now you're.
I mean, now it's serious. Now it's playoff time.
Okay,
Okay?
now you're enforced.
Look, we're on the 17th hole of a match here. I'm not giving you a breakfast ball. You shank one on the opening tee, sure, whatever. You just showed up. You didn't warm up. No balls at the range. I'll give you a breakfast ball. You're not getting one on the 14th tee box.
Before I go 0
Can
for
I get
12,
a free mulligan? No, you're not getting a free mulligan at this point.
Before I go 0 for 12 in the NFL playoffs, let it just be known for the record, I won the regular season.
You did win the
I won
regular season.
I'm the 1 seed.
You're the Oregon Ducks. Congratulations. Wow. Now, will you play Ohio State in round 1? Here I come, bitch. Let's wrap it up. Poll questions next on the Fan.
It's time for To the House, the scoring plays that make football special. Brought to you by Smartline Home Design. Online at smartlinehomedesign.com.
Under 5 minutes to go. Second down and 8. Penn State leads by a touchdown. Leonard throws wide open. Jaden Greathouse avoided Jalen Reed and scores.
That's a great call.
There will never be a better to the house for this segment than a great house taking it to the house. And Notre Dame, wide open wide receiver, Penn State defense. I don't know where they were on that one. That was a big play in the second half of that game.
Yeah, there was a bust in coverage there. Riley Leonard delivered a perfect pass. They tried to say that DB slipped, and he did a little bit. He got his ankles broken. He was not ready for that misdirection. That was a great play. Good win for Notre Dame. Impressive to come back the way they did.
Great House takes it to the house. Brought to you by Smartline Home Design, a trusted local architectural design studio ready to bring your dream home to life. Visit smartlinehomedesign.com.
At Smartline Home Design, we're here to turn your vision into breathtaking reality.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
There you go. Fist bumping your way into the weekend every single Friday. Bit of news out of the NFL. Has this ever happened before?
A bit of news. Pretty big news.
Deshaun Watson. Yeah, that Deshaun Watson, whose career was probably already over, now definitely over. He ruptured his Achilles again.
What?
Now, the report came out like 2 weeks ago that he had suffered a setback in his recovery.
And that's what it was.
And it was not a setback. He ruptured his... Has anybody ever ruptured their Achilles and then ruptured it again?
I mean, I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah.
We just don't hear
You
about
dip
it.
the chip and then you dip it again? What are the chances that happens? Karma's a bitch. Is his career over?
The swag has to be.
There's no chance this
Well,
guy ever plays another down in the NFL again.
Well, he's going to miss next year. You can't speak for what he wants to do. Cleveland's going to find a medical out on this.
Why would anybody sign this guy to any level of contract?
They're not going to. He's too
terrible
toxic.
when healthy.
Yeah.
Now he's ruptured his Achilles twice.
Yeah.
You don't come back from that.
Only time we hear his name again is when he randomly shows up at Clemson game and they give him a standing ovation, or he's a creep again.
And court filings and lawsuits.
Right. That's the only time you're going to hear that name, probably, if this is it for him. I hate to say this because they chose to give up Baker Mayfield, and they signed him to the dumbest contract in sports history. This is good news if you're a Browns fan. You've got an out and a restart looming, and you kept Stefanski. I don't know if they were happy about that, but they're going to keep Stefanski.
You go quarterback in the draft? What do they got? They got top 5 pick, right?
I'd have to go see where they're at in the draft.
I mean, they were terrible this year. That much I know. They have the 2nd overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, how do you not go a Cam Shador here?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going JMO or DTR.
No, you're not. You got to take a guy.
You got to take, and also those
Start
guys
the
have to
process
kind of
all over
start.
again.
They have to show to the owner, this is why you don't fire us. We got this guy.
Yeah, we got a rookie quarterback.
Did they learn a lesson from getting rid of the last pick that they took because he was a little banged up and didn't play well?
Should have given him more time. Do you back into parking spots at stores? 55% of you say no, you do not.
Wow. I thought that would be the other way.
Yeah. Figured more backer-inners, but not the case. More likely upset this weekend. Commanders over Bucks won the cake of the wild card matchups of the close spreads. I didn't put Bills and Broncos and Ravens and Steelers in there. And then who wins it all in college football? 78% of you, now that we're down to 3 teams, say Ohio State could look very foolish in a matter of hours. I think we get a bloodbath tonight. I'm going to go 38-17. 38-17.
21-point win.
Ohio State over Texas.
Oh. I'm going to say points, but still good defense. I'm going to say 27-24.
Ohio State win, Texas cover? Is that where you're
Ohio
at?
State win, Texas cover.
All right.
And by the way, it's official. He didn't send his picks in. 0 for 3 weekend for Jason Swigert.
Things are looking up. Chargers win out of the gate tomorrow.
You
It's gonna
can't
be a
brag
nice little
about
week.
this.
Oh, I will brag.
You had 2 weekends of 0 picks given. You got 6 games made up, potentially.
Don't matter, man. Don't matter.
You better not go over 3.
Just please win a game. Just win a game, man. Just give me one. Come on, Chargers. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of our Friday. Enjoy all the football this weekend. We will talk to you Monday at 6 a.m. Calling us next, listening to 1080 The Fan.